It's a Thursday. Thanks for waking up with us here on the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy. He's Kevin Bowen. I'm Andy Sweeney. Kylan Talley, her final day putting up with us.
Stop, that's so sad.
Outstanding work all week long.
Early in the morning, putting up with a couple knuckleheads here. Hanging out with you on the Fan until 3 o'clock. Goodness, we're not on that late, are we? We're not just blown out Query and Company and greetings saying, get out. We're talking Juan Soto trade for the next 5 hours. Hanging out until 10 o'clock. Busy show today. Pacers in action tonight. Our coverage here on the Fan beginning at 4:30. That tip-off in Vegas. Yes, guys, at 5 o'clock. And one day closer to another biggie. It's the Colts and Bengals on Sunday. We'll talk about that. We'll preview that. KB, a good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Yeah, with this Pacers tip tonight, boy, you could have the nursing home dinners rocking, 5 o'clock. There could be some lively atmospheres in those dining rooms here with the Pacers and Bucks tipping from Vegas.
Isn't that good for us, though? Morning guys, like the game's over at 7:15.
I think it is.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Now, I still it's kind of one of those weird weeks in the NFL where I almost feel obligated. Monday Night Football, that's the Colts' next opponent, and then Thursday Night Football is the opponent after Cincinnati with Pittsburgh and New England. I saw today it was the smallest over-under tonight. 30 points for Patriots and Steelers since 1993.
Really? So 1993, I mean, that's when football was football, 10-7.
Iowa Northwestern equivalent here is what we're going to get on Thursday Night Football.
This might be Iowa versus Iowa. Leave Northwestern out of it. They won 7 games. They're in a bowl, or 6 games at least, didn't they? They're in a bowl game this season. This is Iowa offense versus Iowa offense.
Yeah,
what a
this
game.
is quite the Al Michaels experience tonight for Thursday Night Football. And then obviously we'll preview a whole lot on the Pacers front today. Again, it is Pacers and Bucks semifinal in-season tournament from Milwaukee. Chris Denari, TV voice of the Pacers, he's going to join us coming up here at 8 o'clock. Charlie Clifford, we'll get a little Cincinnati Bengals. You guys have heard Charlie on these airwaves a whole lot. He's down in Cincinnati at the NBC affiliate down there. He was actually at the Monday night game, Bengals over Jags, earlier this week. So we'll talk with Charlie coming up at 9. And then at 8:30, it'll be Rob Blackman, radio voice of the Boilers. Purdue's got that game up in Canada on Saturday, a little bit of a homecoming for Zach Edey. Just kind of curious about that, Andy. You don't really see many international games in college basketball. So, how did that come to be? Are there any hurdles for Purdue? Is there anything, kind of extra around that game as they take on Alabama coming up Saturday afternoon?
Well, I have something that Rob needs to tell the people at Purdue, okay? You ready for this?
Yeah.
When I followed Kentucky basketball, they went to Toronto. They played a couple games in Toronto a few months ago.
That, yeah.
I'm not expecting you to remember it, but here's the thing. They left all their Nike shoes on the bus. Their bus got broken into, and all of their, size 15 shoes for all the basketball players got taken. There were new Kobe's all over the streets of Toronto. So Purdue, make sure whoever is in charge of that they take the shoes and they bring them into a hotel room in Canada.
I would think you could use Zach Edey's shoe as a weapon, considering probably how
big.
What
size shoe does he wear, by the way?
That thing is, I would
it's
assume
be
in the upper teens, correct?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Right? Plenty to unpack today. Colts and Bengals. Again, if you look at Sunday, the first injury report of the week is out. And we've talked so much about the return of Grover Stewart, and he heard from him yesterday. Didn't want to get into, what he ingested. By the way, did you see the Colts had another player pop for PEDs yesterday?
I did see that. When you see the ESPN alert come up and it's Colts, suspended, my mind didn't see the name, and I thought, oh, boy.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, boy, here we go again.
Defensive end Al-Qadim Muhammad. For those, I think I kind of know that name. He actually started every single game for the Colts 2 years ago. Left Indy in free agency, went to Chicago with Matt Eberflus. And Andy, he's one of those guys, and there's probably a handful of them in the Colts locker room where I go in there each week and I'm like, oh yeah, that dude's on the team.
Yeah, he hasn't played at all.
Right. He's not played in a game this season. He's on the practice squad to be official there. So yeah, 6 games for him. That'll bleed into next year if the Colts do not make the playoffs. But we talk so much about the return of Grover Stewart and what it means to the run defense. And yes, that obviously is the big, I think angle to Sunday. But Andy, I think specifically when you look at Cincinnati, you want to commit as many guys in coverage as you can. You don't want to have to cheat up that safety to help out against the run. You don't necessarily want to say, all right, linebackers, sell out every single play to stop the run when you're facing the deepest and I think the best, certainly the best you have faced, the best wideout core the Colts have seen by far all season long. You want as many guys committed to coverage as possible. So I think that's what adds to Grover's return on Sunday. It's that there should be Gus Bradley hope of like, all right, he's back. These guys in the front four, obviously you need a few more for the run game, and then the rest of the group, you got to get back in coverage. So I do think that part of it, allowing kind of an extra body maybe to be in the pass game, is huge for Grover's return.
I'm looking, the line is 1 right now. I feel like that line has bounced around a little bit, has it not?
Opened up 3, if I remember
think it
correctly.
opened up.
But that was before Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it was before Jake Browning became, I don't know, fill in any, big-time quarterback there. No, I mean, listen, Grover Stewart coming back is a big deal. It was funny listening to some of the sound coming out of the locker room yesterday. You kind of do forget this. And, he is a defensive lineman, and it's great to have him back, especially that these games, there's such a premium on these games now, 5 left, and obviously we know what the Cincinnati offense can do. We know what their running game can do. But it does, if you would have told me, Kevin Bowen, that, hey, Grover's going to go out, I remember doing that show. And that was just such a bummer because he was playing well, and you take a guy like that away, it was such a big deal. They won, and he even talked about it yesterday, they won 4 games in a row here without Grover Stewart. It's almost as if, and I know this is revisionist history, the games that he missed are the exact games that you were like, okay, I'll pick those games. If a guy's going to be injured, if he's going to be suspended, these are the games, the Carolina games, the New England Patriots, certainly. Those sorts of games. And listen, I realized Tampa Bay had success on the ground, but guess what? The Colts won that game. I understand the Titans with 2 different running backs, were able to run the football even when Derrick Henry was knocked out in the third quarter. You know what? The Colts won the game, but now you do feel like with the Steelers, as we move here into December, with the Steelers and Bengals and some of these teams, cold weather, they're going to be able to run the football. Getting Grover back, it was good to hear from him yesterday. Yeah, and again, we'll go over the injury report from yesterday, just a walkthrough for the Colts. Also, this is not the first time we've seen Jake Browning versus Gardner Minshew. We'll touch on that as well. We saw a YouTube comment here early on in the show, Andy. Some dude mentioned that his buddy saw John Halliburton at the airport. Oh, did
Obviously, the father of Tyrese Halliburton. I think more and more, or either those that attend Pacer games, watch on TV, even see the immediate reaction post-game, you'll see the Halliburton family. I mean, they are right there next to that hoop, right near the Pacers bench. Mr. Halliburton certainly has some high energy.
Well, was it this morning,
to
or
say
was
the
it
least.
yesterday?
He said this morning.
Well,
so
wait. John's not out there.
The
at least
early
the day
flight to Vegas.
before.
Knowing John, I could see him that says, you know what, we're going to be out there for 3 nights.
Well, yeah, you know what? That's a great point.
We're going to win today.
He's planning on staying the weekend.
And
That's
I'm going to be out
is.
there Thursday night. I'm going to be out there Friday night. And you know what? We got a party after Saturday. So
does he have the IV registered and ready to go on Friday morning to come into the room there?
I was going to say, you're going to need it more than one day if you're spending 3 days out in Vegas. I am curious about
go ahead.
The environment today. The 5 o'clock tip is so odd to me. And, I was reading a little bit of Scott Agnes yesterday, and he kind of mentioned the NBA, I think, wants to treat each game like their own individual game. Mm-hmm. They don't want it to be like the NCAA tournament.
Right.
The NCAA tournament's, you got 20 minutes to warm up, and then boom.
Run a team off, warm up, 30 minutes later, another basketball game starting, right.
But and I know this is a little NBA nerdy stuff, but both television partners have, each of the games tonight. So it'll be ESPN at 5 and then TNT at 9. Well, each of them probably want a pregame show committed to their teams. The last thing you want is, hey, Lakers, Pelicans, you get 20 minutes to warm up, and then all of a sudden, whatever, some dude gets hurt, and now we have a fiasco on our hands. So I think that I'm trying to provide a little bit of explanation on the 5 o'clock. It's still confusing to me. Maddie, one of Maddie's cousins, actually lives out in Vegas. 3 kids, diehard Pacers fans. They got League Pass. They sent us a video after the win on Monday night. They're going nuts because now they can watch their favorite team.
They're going to go?
At T-Mobile Arena. So they're going. Lower bowl tickets.
Okay. I don't know where to even begin to guess what a lower bowl ticket would cost. It's still an NBA game.
18,000 seat T-Mobile Arena,
Right.
so
It's a nice
one
stadium.
of the bigger arenas in the NBA. The Knights play there, tons of UFC stuff, et cetera, the Vegas Knights, that is. Less than $100 each for a lower bowl seat. That strikes me as relatively cheap for a semifinal game, especially when you got Giannis.
It wouldn't be that cheap if Giannis. What was it back, a couple weeks ago when he was in town?
Right.
We need to start looking at those things. I don't remember, but I'm sure you couldn't get a lower bowl ticket for $70.
I'm very interested to see how it feels, how it comes across on TV tonight. Is it, the NBA doesn't play a lot of neutral court games. So that is something that I'm interested in. And one thing I want to throw Chris Denari's way when he joins us coming up here in less than an hour. We looked back on that first matchup. Again, no Damian Lillard. Giannis goes off. Halliburton and Mathurin, terrific for the Pacers. Milwaukee was on a back-to-back. Milwaukee had a big lead in the fourth quarter, up 10 with 5 minutes to go, and the Pacers closed. It was just on fire there to close out the game. Obi Toppin, who I assume will get the Giannis assignment tonight, but I kind of forgot about the first matchup, Andy. That was really not a Toppin game on Giannis. He played 12 minutes in that game. That was when the Pacers actually opted to do the center thing on Toppin. Turner's going to guard him for a bit. Isaiah Jackson's going to guard him for a bit. Daniel Tice actually got in that game. One of the only.
God, is that the only time?
Maybe
he was
the
in
only
a
game he played.
Let me look that up.
For the Pacers,
I can't remember another time he played
this season. So I now kind of fast forward to tonight. I'm thinking I would throw Toppin on him, but I don't know. Maybe the Pacers felt like, hey, Brook Lopez will bring Turner away from the basket. We want Turner a little bit closer to the basket. Obviously, Turner's had foul trouble issues. So that storyline obviously is a big one because clearly the center matchup on Giannis didn't really work very well.
I was about to say he scored 54
when he had 50 4.
Put Obi Toppin on him. Put anyone else on him. He scored 54.
I think you start Toppin on him, but again, that is obviously a matchup. That'll be something to keep an eye on.
Tice played 8 minutes. I'm looking at it. He did score. He played 8 minutes.
Yeah,
I need to go back and see if that's the only game he played the entire time.
I remember Carlisle looking at him on the
is.
bench, and it was one of those Tice was like, "Wait, you're talking to me?
Huh? Me?
You want me to go in there?"
That's like me in middle school.
And then
right?
I assume Bruce Brown will get the Damian Lillard assignment tonight.
And then just one other thing that we can dive into as we go. And I got to be honest, I can't read you. I don't know which way you're going. I have some Rick Carlisle sound we'll play later on in the show. He was asked, and it's become like a national thing now, do you put a banner up if you win the in-season?
Oh, God. We got to go banner talk?
Tournament. And that's exactly my
Well,
thing.
I know Jim Irsay's answer.
Well, Jim Irsay would be a yes with this.
Oh my
correct?
gosh, you would shut down 465 for 3 days and have the
Well,
parade.
it's already shut down most of the time anyway.
Touche.
But that's you get a trophy, but do you get a banner? So Rick Carlisle was asked about that. That's going around NBA circles. Do you put a banner up? Which is when I think of sports radio fodder on a Thursday, maybe even a Friday in NBA markets that are playing in the in-season tournament. That's something that will be talked about.
That is rich.
It really
that is absolutely rich. And I mentioned this yesterday, but as we look ahead to tonight, I think this is exactly what the NBA wants. I mean, you have Milwaukee and LA, two of the last, 4 champs. You've got Giannis and LeBron, the two individuals that, they've been the captains of the All-Star teams for the last couple of years. And then in the Pacers and the Pelicans, you've got two teams that have never won an NBA title. This is exactly what the league wants here. Again, tonight, ESPN, it'll be a little bit of a crossover. Reggie Miller will be on that broadcast with Doris Burke and Mike Breen and Lisa Salters. That is at 5 o'clock. Lakers and Pelicans at 9. We will have a lot on that. And also start to look ahead to Sunday. That first injury report of the week for the Colts did have a couple of starters on it. So we will give you a rundown on that as well. Chris Denari, 8 o'clock. Rob Blackman talking Boilers in Canada at 8:30, and a little bit of a look at the Bengals with Charlie Clifford at 9 o'clock. I'm Kevin Bowen. He's Andy Sweeney. Kylan Talley on the ones and twos. Thank you for spending this Thursday morning with us. It is the Wake Up Call, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Speed. 95 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, your morning check down. You know where we start today. It is Pacers in Vegas taking on the Bucks. 4:30 hour coverage beginning on The Fan. One of the big differences of this game, Damian Lillard is going to be playing. Didn't play back in that game on November the 9th. Here's Rick Carlisle yesterday talking about Dame, Giannis, and the Bucks as a whole.
Lillard being out was a break that we caught on that particular night. On the one hand, that he wasn't out there. On the other hand, Giannis touched the ball 65 times in the game. So I don't know. Where's the bargain there? I mean, it's like that. But now Dame is healthy. Giannis is Giannis. Chris Middleton is another great player and an all-star. And if you look at his minutes trend, he's playing a few more minutes than he was earlier in the season, and he is finishing games now. So, the challenges are many.
If you look at Milwaukee the other night, Andy, they scored 146 in their quarterfinal game against the Knicks. They hit 23 three-pointers. That was a season high. 9 dudes hit a three. 6 of them hit 2 threes. I mean, that's what they've done. I mean, it's put shooters around Giannis really to the nth degree. So obviously that is huge for the Pacers tonight. Again, 5 o'clock tip on ESPN. Last I saw, the Bucks favored by 4.5 in this one.
I'll have to look that up here. 4.5. They only made 9 threes the entire time in the game in November. That's it. 4.5 is the over-under. 254.5. I'll take the over. Give me the over.
That's large.
I know it is.
That's large. The over-under tonight, Thursday Night Football, is not 254. It's 30, which is the lowest the NFL has seen in 30 years. It's Steelers and Patriots. And again, Colts fans, hooded sweatshirt, cut off the sleeves. You need the hoodie tonight. That would be Bill Belichick. Steelers favored by 6. If you look at the playoff chances and the odds, something I want to get into a little bit later as well. Andy, 5% improvement in your playoff odds if the Patriots win tonight. That's what the Colts have at stake. Again, it'll be Colts and Steelers a week from Saturday, so a little bit of a longer week for Pittsburgh here before a huge matchup inside of Lucas Oil Stadium next Saturday.
What do you think the over-unders, I'm just looking at DraftKings, what do you think the over-unders on passing yards are in the game here? Bailey Zappi, Mitch Trubisky.
So is it Zappi?
Well, that's what they have.
Why don't
here.
they just go to Malik Cunningham?
I don't know. Does it matter?
No,
Bailey
probably
Zappi,
not.
Malik Cunningham.
Yeah.
156.5 for Bailey Zappi. The over-under on passing yards tonight. Mitch Trubisky, the over-under is 180.5. That's fantastic.
Oh, man.
Sticking with the NFL, the Colts get ready for the Bengals on Sunday. A guy I know you guys got to talk to, and he was a good quote yesterday. Grover Stewart back able to play. Now, he has been, for the last 3 weeks, I believe, KB, he has been with the team in the locker room, not actually being at games.
Yeah, not allowed to practice, but is allowed to attend meetings.
Is able to just be around the guys, which I don't know. That might be difficult knowing you're not going to be playing on Sunday. Short clip here. He was asked, are you going to be on a pitch count on Sunday?
Oh, no. All game.
All game from him.
Grover's life, I think, is football, food, and then more football.
Well, that's not bad. I wish that was my life. He was also asked what it's been like the last 6 weeks. The team's been winning, but you haven't been there.
These last 6 weeks been hard for me. Sitting at home, watching the guys go out there each and every week and fight and do their job. It was hard for me just watching them, knowing I couldn't be out there helping them. So every day I'm up early, working out, conditioning, watching film, working on my craft, and watching film, try to help the guys. So.
Again, it is going to be, I should say Grover was a full participant yesterday. Just a walkthrough, though, for the Colts. They'll have their first official practice today. Of note, though, on that first injury report of the week, the Colts had 4 guys on the would not have participated list. Juju Brents again, Jonathan Taylor, which is expected, and then 2 starters that left the game for different parts on Sunday. Braden Smith left after 3 snaps. He did not return. That was a right knee injury for Braden Smith. And then E.J. Speed, who left in overtime just briefly, Andy. He came back after a couple of snaps, but certainly that is one to keep an eye on. That was a knee injury as well. So the Colts do have some notable names on that injury report here in Week 14. And surprisingly, the Bengals, after playing on Monday night, they didn't list anybody as a did not practice. Now, they also had a walkthrough because they're on a short week, but certainly something to keep an eye on the rest of the week.
What does your gut tell you? I mean, Juju Brents has been out now. This would be, 6-7 games?
Yeah,
so,
I thought there was a real chance that
EJ Speed's worrisome, right?
Yeah, I thought there was a real chance that Juju could play on Sunday against Cincinnati, but I guess we'll find out a little bit more today. The fact that EJ Speed came back in the game, I think, is a good sign. Now, you oftentimes see this. I mean, adrenaline during the game speaks for itself. It was a big overtime moment. Things can develop, but I think this time tomorrow we'll have a little bit of a clearer picture on that end. Just a couple of other quick items of note. Shout out to Michael Lewis and Ball State. They win last night 68-65. They are now 7-2 on the year. They beat Detroit, who I think stinks. There was some late game chaos in that one.
Detroit just bad at all basketball.
Yeah.
Just everyone associated with Detroit is bad at basketball.
Which I think is actually a good thing if you're a local fan. And then we saw it late yesterday in the show. Jalen Lucas for Indiana, one of their more explosive playmakers for Indiana football. He is in the transfer portal. And then Brendan Sorsby, their starter late in the season, who really took over, I guess, for Taven Jackson, maybe a little bit more earlier than late in the season. He is now transferred to Cincinnati. Curt Cignetti, it strikes me, Andy, that he has like 37 dudes in the portal on offense. Like, this is going to be... I would be stunned if there's more than like 3 starters back on offense.
Yeah, McCulley, he put his name out there. I wouldn't mind even talking about this for like 2 minutes later on. A lot of people thought at Kentucky he was going to go to Lexington. Michigan offered yesterday. So a big boy moved in on Donovan McCulley.
Yeah, and again, Donovan McCulley, Jalen Lucas, I mean, even some of the starting offensive linemen, these are good football players.
Right.
I know we can fall into the trap of it's IU football. They won 3 games. All of them should transfer. That's not, that's way too black and white. So this is something where Curt Cignetti is going to have maybe an entirely new look offense here coming up this fall.
Yeah, Sorsby leaving and going to Cincinnati, to me, it's like where the guys go matters. Him going to Cincinnati doesn't matter to me at all. I mean, they went from Fickle, who got him to the promised land, if you will, to Scott Satterfield. Did you see what they did last year? Did you go look up that Big 12 record?
Well, they're still better than IU.
That is a full rebuild. I'm not sure they are. If you ask me who's going to have...
IU won 3 games.
I know. I need to look it up. Cincinnati may have only won 3 games as well. If you ask me who next year could have the better record, I might go with my man Cignetti. I might.
You might be playing quarterback for Curt Cignetti
that would be fun.
How the early
give
portal's
us one
gone.
more swoosh, Kai. One more swoosh, because in honor of Jimmy Cook today and myself, Juan Soto. I mean, imagine we would have led with this if he were traded to the Cincinnati Reds. Juan Soto, I'm kidding, traded to the Yankees. That was a big one yesterday. 7 players all in that trade. And then just quickly, last night, Shaka Smart Marquette beat Texas by 21.
Where are we at on
21.
Shohei Ohtani watch?
I don't think anywhere. The Dodgers admitted they talked with him. I don't know if they were supposed to admit that or not, but they did.
Is that tampering? I thought anything goes in Major League Baseball.
Basically anything goes. So, West Coast Dodgers, don't you have to think they're probably the number 1 team? But we're nowhere. I mean, come on. That was supposed to be the free agency watch of the century. What are we doing?
The Pacers are in Vegas. Andy Sweeney wants to know if they should hang a banner if they win it all here coming up this weekend. We'll chat about that. And again, more on the Colts and Bengals front. You look at these next 2 weeks for the Colts. What happens if they beat both Cincinnati, Pittsburgh? What happens if they lose both? We'll dive into some of those scenarios as well. Good Thursday morning to you. Thanks for spending it with us.
The Colts head down I-74.
The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
Couple different Pacer things before we dive into the Colts here. I know a sports radio gas bag, KB, who does afternoons there in Vegas. I reached out to that sounds like a pretty good gig, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I reached out to him. He's going to give us some insight on what he thinks. He's going to DM me back here shortly on what kind of celebration we think we're going to have downtown, what kind of crowd and everything else in Vegas. So we'll have that. And then I retweeted this. I don't know. Have you guys ever had, when you were on with Jake or anyone else, Sam Viceni on from The Athletic? You ever had him on?
Yeah, draft guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sammy's a draft guy. He's a big basketball guy. I think his wife got a job in like Australia or something like that. It was New Zealand. And so I don't even know what time it is where he's at. But last night, he did an hour of like a video breakdown of the Pacers offense and Tyrese Halliburton. So if you are a Pacer nerd who wants the ins and outs of what Carlisle is doing offensively and just how good Tyrese Halliburton is, look him up at Sam_Viceni. He's from The Athletic, and he's a basketball Benny, if you will.
I saw Halliburton made an appearance again on the Paul George podcast.
Oh, did he?
So yeah, I mean, the national attention around Indiana on this team certainly has grown. And yeah, a 2:00 tip local time out in Vegas. Andy, I almost feel like it's going to have that Thursday or Friday afternoon NCAA tournament feel. And for those that have been to those venues and those games at those times, Andy, that 2:00 NCAA tournament feel, particularly 12 o'clock games, they're not great atmospheres, if you're going to be totally honest.
Yeah, not all the time, for sure.
Filling up an 18,000 seat arena, and I don't know, maybe Pacers Bucks will have a little bit of a different vibe to it. But still, I'm curious how that's going to be come 5 o'clock today.
Chris Denari will join us coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. All right, Kai, let's get it going here. Let's get clip number 12 up. Stephen Holder was on with us. I want to talk some Colts here. All these games are so big, and the Bengals on Sunday is such a fun game. And it was a fun game when Joe Burrow, and then Burrow goes down. And then last week, I'm cocky. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to beat the Tennessee Titans. And then, Jake Browning, there's no way you're going to lose with this defensive line with the Colts. You're going to lose to Jake Browning. Then Browning goes out and does what he did Monday against Jacksonville. I ask, as a starting off point, I want your opinion on this, and then we'll dive into the game. So I asked Stephen Holder yesterday when we had him on. Go back to the podcast center, 1075thefan.com. I asked him just kind of a basic question. Gut feeling, do we think the Colts are going to make the playoffs this year? I mean, that's a fair conversation. You gave some odds. You can give them again of if they win, what the odds will be if they win Sunday in Cincinnati. And then I think you said, a 5% jump if the Patriots beat the Steelers tonight, which, by the way, low-scoring, close game, anything, you get a fumble, you get a couple field goals,
wild things
short
happen.
week, wild things happen on Thursday Night Football. It's about 50 seconds long. Here's Stephen Holder on the Colts making the playoffs this season.
I think that at this point, not making the playoffs is a disappointment. This ain't about, it's just gravy now. Let's just see what happens. No, I mean, they have raised the bar. You got to make the playoffs now. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying I'm not saying heads should roll if they don't make it. No, of course not. That's stupid. But what I'm saying is the calculus can change over the course of a season. It can go one way or the other. Last year, the expectations were very high, and then they ended up being terrible. So the calculus changed, right? This year, it went the other way. We had no expectations, and it turns out they're very competitive. And now it's time to finish the job. So, is that a prediction that they'll make it? No, but I think that they should make it because, again, it's in their hands. They have a very manageable schedule, and I expect them to go compete and to go take their best shot to make it. And if they don't, I would see that as a little bit of a letdown at this point.
Now, when he said that, I agreed with that. I am very much a believer, KB, that it's fun doing all of the previews and the preseason analysis. But we know every year teams are going to come out of nowhere. I mean, the Colts are one of those teams. I mean, everyone we had on 3, 4, 5, you picked them to win, 6 games, and people were looking 7 games, and people were looking at you like you had 3 eyes in your head.
Right.
I mean, and I was one of them. I picked them to win 5 games, so not a huge difference there. And you see teams like the Houston Texans, you see teams like the Giants and Bills who took massive steps back. The Bengals, perhaps a little bit different because of Joe Burrow. So, number one, I am a firm believer that within a year, things change. We never truly know how good or bad a team is going to be, injuries, the rest of the NFL, and everything else. So I would agree with Steven there. So that would be number one. Number two, and even though even though Joe Burrow is out, I personally do not view this Bengals team like I viewed the last several opponents of the Colts. Does that make sense? I mean, obviously, the Panthers are terrible. They're going to go 1-16. Let's just say what it is. The Patriots are terrible. The Buccaneers, I mean, let's just be honest. And the Titans last week, I mean, they are a team that is a bad team, and they're going to lose this week as well. My point being, I kind of thought maybe when Burrow went down that I would view this Cincinnati team as another in the line of bad teams, basically, that the Colts are facing. And then Jake Browning does what he did on Sunday. And then, as you have mentioned all week, this is a team that is as deep at wide receiver as you possibly could be in the NFL. I mean, so much so, they're going to lose T. Higgins to free agency this season. Joe Mixon running the football. I know their defense has had some issues, but even though the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow, I don't view them in the same wavelength as the other teams of the last 4 and 5 weeks for the Colts. Do you? And then
no, that's never even crossed my mind.
Yeah,
I've always been higher on Cincinnati just because they're so dynamic at the skill positions. And then we all watch Monday night. And I guess the thing that stood out to me about Jake Browning on Monday, Andy, is when you have these young, by the way, Jake Browning went to the rival high school of Shane Steichen.
I heard that yesterday.
I did not know that. When you think about backup young quarterbacks, what I think of is they're going to dink and dunk the hell out of it, and if you blitz them, they cripple.
Yeah, eventually they'll be shaken.
Like, those are the two things I think of. I mean, when we've talked about the Colts playing Levis or the Colts playing, Mac Jones, or the Colts playing, Bryce Young, that's kind of what we've said. Pressure them, and then just suffocate and tackle, because they're not going to have, or they're not going to be super willing to throw the ball down the field. Two things that stood out to me about Jake Browning on Monday night, and we all can just look at like the stat line: over 350 yards, over 80%, and that tells a pretty impressive story. But Andy, I was looking a little deeper at some of those numbers from Browning on Monday night. They blitzed him on 13 dropbacks. Jacksonville blitzed him 13 times. He was 8 for 13 for 150 and didn't take a sack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine 13 blitzes against a second career starter.
Yeah, the 0 sacks sticks out
and
to
you
me.
don't sack him one time, and then he's 8 for 13 for 150. It's not like he was throwing the ball in the stands and he went, 3 of 13 in that in those moments that they ramped up the pressure, and then down the field. Because if you watch the first quarter on Monday night, it was literally Chad Pennington dink and dunk central like no other. I think I said it earlier in the week. At one point, Jamar Chase had 9 yards on 5 catches. And I was like, what is this Army-Navy through the air right now? Like, what is going on right now? And then as soon as that second quarter came, Brownie hit his first 10. So he's 10 for 10 to start the game. All of a sudden, it was the Joe Burrow playbook. And they opened it up big time. Browning on throws over 10 yards on Monday night, 8 of 9 for 180. So if you look at what he did against the blitz, if you look at what he did throwing the ball down the field, that ain't no backup. That ain't no young quarterback. That is he was a dynamic QB on Monday night. Now the question becomes, was it fool's gold? Was this just, whatever? Jacksonville doesn't have a lot of film on him. He's obviously working with great weapons. Is this just kind of a flash in the pan? Or, to steal the Jake Query analogy, is this a bit of a donut tire from a backup quarterback? And the more and more that you use it, the more and more that you see this guy, it catches up to him. I would also add this one point to go back to the Stephen Holder comment that you brought up earlier and the disappointment in the playoffs. If you presented the playoff picture to me right now, I would say the Colts do make the playoffs, just based off what it looks like.
Agreed.
Given the quarterback slate that you have upcoming, it's kind of wild to say this. If you gave the parameters, non-rookie starting QB, and also said they were healthy, because I just don't think Baker Mayfield was healthy the rest of that game after he got hurt early on against the Colts. So if you just threw out those two things, non-rookie starting QB and a healthy QB, the Colts faced a bunch of them early in the season. You faced Trevor Lawrence twice. You faced Lamar Jackson. You faced Matthew Stafford. You faced Derek Carr. Andy, since Derek Carr, which was right at the midway point of the season, you're not going to see a single one the rest of the way.
No,
not
you're
a
not.
single quarterback that you would label under the qualifications as non-rookie and healthy. Nobody falls into that group ever since that New Orleans game. And so that just kind of adds to the reason why, again, I thought the schedule was super manageable all year long. I didn't even think it would look this manageable. But having said that, I do think in Cincinnati, in Pittsburgh a week from Saturday, even Atlanta a couple weeks from now, maybe even the Raiders, and then Houston to close out the year, you are going up a tier. You might be going up a couple of tiers in competition based off who you've played in recent weeks. Cincinnati's got a lot of warts, but they still have some things that I think would make me stay up at night if I were the Colts.
By the way, you mentioned Jake. Query was asking the guys, I believe he was wondering if Eddie Garrison and company yesterday would have given him their Peacock password for him. Would you? Are you a lender of passwords out there? You know, Netflix cut that out within the past year.
Yeah, I gave a buddy of mine my Bally subscription earlier in the year. I believe it is working
anyway.
for him. But I did not flaunt. Can I say that? I did not flaunt the Peacock password.
Oh goodness!
Does that make sense? I believe J&V said he just listened to Fish and Eric Seward.
Is that what he did? He went old school.
Uh-huh.
He's I'm not gonna pay $5.99 to watch these damn games. Two things quickly, and again, Chris Denari gonna join us in about 12 minutes, top of the 8 o'clock hour. Two things I got thinking of. If Browning, I don't know how I want to say this, if they would have lost in overtime and Browning threw, instead of throwing for 354 and being, 32 of 37, if Browning had a few more incompletions and, I don't know, maybe had 285 yards, would we view him differently? Because he was a star on Monday. I mean, he was one of the main reason they went on the road in Jacksonville. And then the second thing, I got thinking about this last night because I'm sick and twisted on these sorts of things. Isn't it a good thing Jake Browning did what he did on Monday night to Jacksonville?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because this could have happened to you, right? Because I went into that game. I told people, there were 4 people in a Survivor League that I was in, and I put my money with the stupid Jacksonville Jaguars at home, and they're bad at home. They're not good when they're playing in Jacksonville. I do. But I did that because I did not have the confidence in Jake Browning. And then he did what he did on Monday. And for me, the way I viewed it is now the Colts know that guy can play. It's easy to say because let's just all be honest. When a quarterback like Burrow, who is at the very top of his profession as a starting quarterback in the NFL, goes down, we automatically write off the team, do we not? We write off the backup. We do this like damn near 100% of the time. Maybe now Minshew will get his flowers, and perhaps Josh Dobbs has earned, there's a couple guys in the NFL that have kind of earned the right that if they come in, that you pay attention, you sit up in your seat. But for the most part, when a big time quarterback goes down, it's done, it's over. That's how I feel. And then the first game, Browning against the Steelers, and the Steelers have, of course, a good defense, a very good defense. He looks like he doesn't really belong in the NFL. And if they played this game last week between the Colts and Bengals, KB, I would worry that you would be caught off guard. Jacksonville was caught off guard. They were caught off guard that thinking, oh, Browning, he's going to dink and dunk, right? I mean, he's not going to be able to go 72 yards. He's not going to be able to push the ball down the field. They're not going to run the Joe Burrow offense with this guy. And then they did in the second quarter, the third quarter, fourth quarter, and into overtime. So, listen, I know.
It's a great wake-up call.
Yeah, that's exactly what. It's a wake-up call that, pardon the pun on the name of the show, it's a wake-up call that this happened to Jacksonville. This guy's got some ball in him. Do not let it happen to you.
Plus, I also think it helps that it was Monday Night Football, where so many NFL guys
Everybody's
are watching.
Right. It's not Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Game. And, I can hear people out there. You're a professional. You should prepare, for everyone. There's a human element to all of this. So I do think that is advantageous to the Colts. Again, we did see a Jake Browning, Gardner Minshew matchup back in the old.
Yeah, when was this?
2018 Apple Cup.
Yeah, Washington State.
To say it was snowing in that game would be putting it lightly. You actually had, and I kind of forgot about this.
What year was that again?
2018.
2018. Let me look that up.
Washington State was on the fringe of a playoff berth. They had one loss. They were ranked number 8 in the nation, and they actually lost that game to Washington. I think probably no one cares about the stat lines for the two quarterbacks in that game, but I'll just give them to you. Jake Browning was 11 of 14 for 207 and a pick.
I'm looking at it.
Gardner Minshew 26 of 35 for 152 and 2 picks there as Washington and Jake Browning defeated Gardner Minshew, Mike Leach and company 28 to 15 in that one. The point that you bring up goes back to kind of my earlier one, Andy, of why the Grover Stewart presence is so big on Sunday. It's not that Cincinnati's this menacing run game. Yes, Joe Mixon's a really nice player. Most scrimmage yards of the season he had on Monday night. It's the fact that Gus Bradley can sit there for the first time in 6 weeks and say, all right, with Stewart, maybe we don't have to commit as much to stopping the run. And does that now allow me to say, all right, Jamar Chase, here's a double. All right, T. Higgins, we might be able to cover you a little bit more intently than, ideally, or I shouldn't say ideally, than we could have in recent weeks without Grover Stewart. If we want to nerd out over a few numbers here.
Oh, let's go. Give me some numbers, yeah.
Again, Bengals and Steelers, each of the next 2 weeks here for the Colts. If you play the old playoff predictor, if the Colts take care of business, they go 2-0 in these two games.
Okay.
95% chance of making the playoffs. You go 1-1 in those two, just north of a coin flip. About 65-ish percent.
Okay.
On that, if you go 0-2, your playoff odds shrink to 21%. So again, these are monumental games for the Colts and their playoff chances. Obviously, the head-to-head tiebreakers up for grabs in each of these, with the 6-6 Bengals and then the 7-5 Steelers next week. All right, on the other side, we will get to the TV voice of the Pacers. No duties tonight for Chris Denari.
What's his favorite table game? Do we know?
Well, hey,
I
he's not out
ask
there.
Him that. No, but I'm saying in general. Like if he were out there.
He does not strike me as a major gambler in that scene, but who knows? Chris Denari coached me in basketball back in the day.
Did he really?
Everyone's
coached you in basketball.
Denari for me. He joins us next here. It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy.
The Ride with JMV.
Michael Pittman Jr.
7-5, The Fan.
This is much better entrance music than what Greg Doyle wanted on Monday, KB, I believe. A little hootie on a Thursday to get you ready.
You were bobbing that head of yours.
I was.
I know our next guest is.
Chris Denari joins us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. We'll talk some Pacers with him. Chris, I was mentioning, we were laughing because I think you were talking to our producer about getting some hootie in the Blowfish, and I said, I think that was either my first, second, or third CD that I got. It was either this or maybe a Matchbox 20, perhaps, was one of the first ones.
Did a little 3 a.m. action there with Matchbox 20?
Little 3 a.m. Who was the lead singer? Rob Thomas, I believe. Chris, good morning. Thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Hey, it's great. Good morning. In-season tournament, semifinal day. So as KB knows, I'm going to be like everybody else. I'm going to be watching on my big screen. So I'm not in Vegas. It's an ESPN-only telecast. So I think I made a note. It's been 131 straight games that I've done. And the last time I watched a Pacers game and not doing it was 2 years ago when they beat Golden State on TNT. And that was before the Tyrese Halliburton trade. So I've done every one of Tyrese's games before tonight, and I'll be a fan like everybody else.
Now, Chris, I've known you for a long, long time. You are very even keel. It's one of my favorite qualities about you. Having said that, what will be your emotions tonight when the fourth quarter rolls around?
You probably I become more of a fan. There's no question because it's a lot different than when you're calling a game when you have a job to do. I mean, it is the one thing that we're around the group, we're around the team, and I think people that watch the games know. We want the Pacers to win. There's no question about that. But we also try to be a bit as objective and give the telecast what it needs to be given. But it's I thought Monday night was just huge for the franchise. I mean the emotion and the feel in the building. I don't think we had seen anything like that since probably Game 6 of the Pacers Cavaliers series. What is that, about 6 years ago? I think we've had some really good regular season crowds since the trade was made, almost 2 years ago for Tyrese. But the emotion in the building, I mean, it was a special night, and I think we'll go a long way to what this team can be moving forward. But definitely, it'll be a lot different watching the game. I mean, I think I get a lot more nervous, when I'm watching a game than when I'm doing a game.
Year 18, right?
Yeah, year 18, right.
Year 18 for Chris Denari here, the TV voice of the Pacers. Tonight, though, it'll be 5 o'clock tip from Vegas on ESPN. That'll be Mike Breen, a little crossover with Reggie Miller, alongside Doris Burke and Lisa Salters. Chris, before we dive deeper into, the Bucks and this matchup specifically, it's probably the most popular question I've gotten all week long. And I was curious, do you know any sort of insight on why the 5 o'clock tip is happening tonight and not something a little bit later into the night?
No, I don't know. I mean, the one thing, looking at the way they've arranged the game times, it reminds me a little bit of what they did in the bubble. They gave a lot of space between the games. It's different than an NCAA tournament. It's different than high school basketball where the game is over and then you get a 20-minute warm up and you come out. I think the reason there's more space is because what NBA teams like to do, they like to have those pregame individual warm-ups. So I'm assuming that the Pacers game starts, I think tip is at 5:13, so it's not even at 5. But you think about 2.5 hours, that's about 7:30. And then it gives the next game, it gives New Orleans and the Lakers a chance to come out and do their individual stuff before. That's the only thing I can figure. And maybe the other thing is they just felt that they didn't want the second game to start too late. But if you look at the TV ratings from the other night, the Phoenix Lakers game did almost 2 million people, and it tipped after 10 o'clock. So, I'm a little surprised that, it's a 5 o'clock and a 9 o'clock tip, but I think maybe that's part of the reason why.
Chris Denari joining us here on the Wake Up Call on the Fan. Payless Liquors hotline on this Thursday. Gut feeling after such, earlier in the week, after such emotion, winning that game, really people paying attention to not only Halliburton, but the Pacer team as a whole. How do you think they play tonight against Milwaukee?
No, I think they'll be ready to go. I go back to Saturday night as well. The win in Miami without Tyrese, I thought was very important for this group because remember the last time they played without Tyrese, they go to Boston, they get beat by 51. No Tyrese on Saturday, they score 144 points against I think a really good Miami team, a good franchise that was in the NBA Finals a year ago. So. Hopefully they build on that and build on what they did on Monday. I think they'll be ready to go. I think they'll, make the adjustments they have to make. This is going to be a different Bucks team than they beat earlier in the month because you've got Damian Lillard that's healthy. But on the flip side is Giannis won't have the ball in his hands as much as he had in Game 1 when he went for over 50. But this is a very talented Bucks team. I mean, if you're going to win this first ever NBA Cup, you're going to have to beat some pretty good teams. And if you look back at group play, if you would have told anybody in the summer that it would be the Pacers that would come out of a group that included Cleveland, Philadelphia, and Atlanta, all playoff teams, I don't think anybody would have believed that. And then to go to the semifinals, you have to beat at this time, the team that's playing probably the best in the NBA in Boston. And now, potentially, to win it, it's the Bucks, and then potentially the Lakers if they beat New Orleans tonight. So I think they'll be ready to go. I'm sure they'll have always. Rick has a really good game plan, and it'll be something to watch tonight.
Yeah, I thought Pat Boylan mentioned that the Pacers have been underdogs in 4 of the 5 in-season tournament games, and obviously have won 4 of those 5. Again, Chris Denari is with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. The coverage tonight, ESPN. Chris and company will be back on Monday in Detroit as the Pacers get back started with their normal schedule, if you will. I want to continue to go back to that first matchup. It kind of struck me that I had forgotten that it wasn't really Obi Toppin on that Giannis matchup. That was actually a game Daniel Tice got in and guarded Giannis a little bit. So as you look ahead to tonight, obviously from a center standpoint, we know Jalen Smith isn't going to play in Vegas. Daniel Tice isn't even on the roster. Do you think it is going to be Miles Turner initially, or do you put Turner on Lopez and give Obi Toppin that Giannis assignment?
Yeah, I tend to think it'll be Toppin just from the standpoint that I don't think you want to put Miles in that situation from a foul standpoint, because Giannis is so good at drawing fouls. And Lopez, while he's a good rebounder and a good shot blocker on the defensive end, he likes to hang out around the three-point line. And so I just think from a protection standpoint as well, you want Miles on the floor as much as you can, and you don't want him in foul trouble. You don't have Jalen Smith. Isaiah Jackson has done some nice things, but he's undersized. So I would think it would be Toppin. And then you've got Aaron Nesmith that, is a really good defender. He's undersized, but he's going to give you everything he has. So that's what I guess I would anticipate. What's interesting tonight, if you look at the matchup, they do have Lillard, and so they're similar from a Boston standpoint where they have 2 guys that can get 60 between them, but they don't have Pat Connaughton tonight off the bench, and they don't have Jay Crowder. And so it's a little bit different look that the Pacers will see tonight in Vegas with this Milwaukee team.
Who do we think?
Pat Connaughton, one of my favorite athletes of all time.
I knew exactly what you were going to say.
I love him.
I did see his name, and I did think of you. I'm not exactly sure why. Chris Denari with us. This is for both of you. If I give you Buddy Hield, Dame Lillard, and Tyrese Halliburton, who shoots the deepest 3 tonight? Is it Dame?
Oh, man.
Because, these 3 guys are shooting from the logo tonight in Vegas, right?
From the strip, yeah. From the sphere, probably.
Yeah, I would go Dame or Tyrese. Buddy has range, but I don't think he has, in my opinion, I don't think he has the same range as Dame or Tyrese. And I like Buddy I like Buddy right around the 3-point line or, a few feet past. Now, Tyrese and Lillard, I've done enough games over the years. I remember doing a game in Portland where Lillard came across the 8-second line, and I think he launched it from the Blazers logo.
Sure.
And it was nothing but net. So I would say it would be between Tyrese and Damian Lillard tonight to see who gets off the longest three.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I would say Buddy's light might be a little bit more neon green than anybody else. I mean, all of them have, obviously, green lights, but Buddy, to me, I mean, as soon as he touches that thing, it's going up. That was a huge shot he hit the other night, by the way, to kind of put that game on ice.
Well, I think that the one thing about Buddy is he's always a threat. He's shooting better than 40%. Now, he's had some lulls, but you always have to account for him. I mean, it's like football. He's like the wide receiver that you always know is out there and may not be targeted, but you've got to pay him a lot of attention. And you're right. He had a tremendous game, I thought, on Monday, and I thought he did a nice job defensively as well. I think Buddy does a really good job, and he's gotten better of being on ball. Where Buddy gets caught sometimes is in a help situation, but the three he hit after Tyrese made the 4-point play, finally you saw the Pacers, get that lead to 7 after they had led by 11 in the second half, and Boston had made that run. But I just thought that was a tremendous pass. That's the connection that Buddy and Tyrese have that, goes back to their days in Sacramento. I mean, you watch that play again, and they had Horford on him, and Heel did a really good job of rubbing him off a screen underneath and coming back out to the top. The Pacers only had 5 seconds on the shot clock, and that was a huge shot.
TV voice of the Pacers, Chris Denari, joining us here on this Thursday Payless Liquors hotline. Early in the season when we knew this tournament was going to be going on, I read some quotes and some players, kind of dismissed it. It's one of 82. These guys make a ton of money. Most of them do. So the money isn't always the biggest thing. But lately, the Pacers, Rick Carlisle, Tyrese Halliburton have put such a forefront on this, saying, hey, we want to win this. We're taking this seriously. LeBron James said something similar the other day. And then Dame Lillard as well, getting ready. His press availabilities, getting ready for the game this afternoon, has been very vocal that he loves it. He thinks the NBA hit a home run with this. I guess, are you surprised that these very rich multimillionaire guys are buying in and have bought in seemingly to the in-season tournament? Because I am.
I'm really not being around these guys, because when you put something out there that you have a chance to win, I don't care what it is, that they want to win it. And I think especially since this one is the first one, it will be special. You'll look back and think, hey, that was the first in-season tournament. And I think most of these guys, you have a lot of international players that are playing in the NBA now that are familiar more with FIBA and Cup play, not just World Cup play, but maybe Euro League and all that kind of stuff, Euro Cup. And you look at soccer, you have some of these instances where it's not just if you've won the game, but how many points did you win by, point differential and all that. And then I've heard some of the players say it reminds them a little bit of AAU. And so many of these players have come up through the AAU system. So, no, I'm not surprised, but I do think it's been even better than any of us thought. And people can love or hate the floors, but I've really enjoyed it because when those nights came, I knew what was on the line. And doing the games, the two at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in the group play, and then of course the game on Monday, and then the game in Philadelphia and Atlanta, it just had a different feel. It really did. It did not feel like a regular season game in November or like Monday. It didn't feel like a regular season game in December. So I really think it's something that is a nice add-on for the NBA. And, they'll do some tweaks in the future, but I think everybody across the board has to be really happy. And with the buy-in that the players and the coaches and everybody has shown, I think that'll carry over in future years.
All right, Chris, last one for me. I have no idea if this is even possible, but let's throw out the hypothetical the Pacers win tonight. We know that Saturday is ESPN at 8:30. for the championship game of the in-season tournament. Can we get you, JJ, and company on a flight out there for maybe just a post-game show? And I want you to celebrate in Vegas just in case they do win it all, and then you guys fly to Detroit after that with the team. Is that possible?
Well, right now I would say no. I mean, right now it's this is sort of like I've had in the past, where you're a fan, right? Because it's a national telecast. So that's one of the things that, as I look back at my Pacers career, back to the Eastern Conference Finals in 13 and 14, we were always able to do the first round, but after that you become a spectator. We would do some post game shows. But it's a whole lot different, let me tell you, when you're not there and not a part of it. Like I said, I've done every one of Tyrese's games since he's been with the Indiana Pacers. So it'll be a little bit surreal to be sitting in my basement watching the big screen. But I remember that game, 2 years ago, watching the Golden State game. That was a 10:30 start. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and the Pacers, I think, took it to overtime and won the game. I was jumping around. I had during the timeouts, I have like an indoor putting green, and I was so nervous that I would just go over and start putting during the commercial breaks.
That's
and
great.
Go back. So
you're just missing everything because your hands are shaking.
How'd you do? I was about to say, how'd you do? Did you make 20% of them or what?
Well, I've got to figure that out today. That putting green is not up in the basement, but it's in the storage room. I may need to get that out today and have it ready to go during the commercial break.
Yeah, honey, are you in there getting Christmas decorations out? No, I'm ironing the putting green and making sure that it's good for tonight. Chris, keep those emotions in check, or honestly, just feel all the emotions tonight. Going to be a great one at 5 o'clock, and I guess safe travels to maybe Vegas, but more likely Detroit coming up on Monday.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's Chris Denari right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. I've thought more and more about these start times for the game. Again, 5 o'clock and 9. And
are you buying into it or what?
As Chris points out, if you want to get technical, and this is probably good for our audience that is working until 5 o'clock. It sounds like tip is not till 5:13 tonight, so that could save you in a little rush hour traffic home. Why not 6 and 10 p.m.? Because that the 10 p.m. slot is the Western teams. And I look at it this way. The 6 o'clock game with the Eastern Conference teams, that's over before Thursday Night Football starts. And then we all watch the first half of Thursday Night Football and we think, why in the bleeping you-know-what are we watching Patriots and Steelers? So by halftime, we're so fed up and done with watching that game of Mac Jones and Mitchell Trubisky that then we want to turn over for the second semifinal game between Lakers and Pelicans.
Plus, past 10 o'clock, we're used to, on the East Coast, Midwest, whatever it may be, the Eastern time zone, we're used to those games starting at 10:15.
Right.
If you're going to stay up for Lakers Suns, that's going to be a game that you're going to be up well past midnight if you're going to stay up and watch those games. You know what I got thinking while Chris was talking? And I don't think Bally's could do this. There's probably some sort of contractual reason or whatever. But if they could have got all the guys like a watch party, like a watch party, watch it on the app. Like Lebitard show's done that. ESPN.
Like a second viewing experience?
Yeah, like the alternate broadcast. ESPN has done a lot of alternate broadcast. Barstool does a lot of, you can watch along if they have a big game or whatever. It's kind of becoming a popular thing. It might be something we do here with the Fan. I don't know.
Okay.
Purdue in that 116 matchup, we all get in a room and we all get nervous that they might not beat a 16 seed. You know what I'm talking about.
That's
I'm kidding.
That's over at Cambridge, in all likelihood, right? As long as Purdue continues to have one of the top seeds.
Yeah, those tickets are available. Get those tickets.
Again, 5 o'clock tonight, so that means John will have, 4:30 for him? I'm trying to think, how long does Mark Boyle and Pat Boylan go for the pregame show?
Yeah,
our hour?
Yeah, our pregame begins at 4:30, so JMV, a little half show today. How about that?
Okay, he'll be a little bit earlier today, and again, if the Pacers win, that will be 8:30 Saturday, and if they lose, Andy, they're done. There's no third-place game. This game tonight does count towards the 82-game season. And if you are looking at it from a financial standpoint, everybody on the Pacers roster guaranteed at least $100,000 for making the semifinals. If they win tonight and lose in the title, that is $200,000. If they win it all, that is $500,000 apiece.
For the winners, it's going to be good to be the Gucci store in Vegas, with the winners taking their winnings over and buying a new bag immediately.
Right. I would think bottle service. I would think cigars. I would think maybe some other activities in Vegas.
Oh, goodness. A $400 bottle of vodka.
You want to be the person contacting the Pacers and saying, would you like to set up a party through us here, potentially after the game?
Have you ever done the Vegas
Saturday
bottle
night?
Service?
I've done
your
Vegas once, and honestly, it's very blurry. What I recall. It was about 10 years ago. It was my first bachelor party.
Oh, you told me that. Yeah. You told me that.
The first bachelor party, you all think, I'm going to go 180 miles per hour.
You guys went big.
Yeah, you get hit in the face real hard, real quick.
You guys went big. I got thinking, you mentioned Halliburton's dad. What's his name? John?
John
Halliburton. I need to learn that. John just left today. He just left this morning, and you made a great point. I go, well, why didn't he get up there early? My man's hoping to stay the entire weekend, or he's staying the entire weekend anyway. He's staying. He doesn't need to go to Detroit, right? He doesn't need to make that trip. He'll stay in Vegas.
You're gonna pick and choose your road trips here, and when this one, pops up on the schedule, you're certainly going to do that.
All right. Before we get to a morning check down, can I just throw two things your way, and then we'll get to a check down?
Yes, and I did want to say this.
Go ahead.
Let's not hang the banner. Celebrate the
we're not
in-season
hanging
tournament.
No damn banner.
Yeah. Celebrate it, enjoy it. I've been a fan of the in-season tournament, but banner hanging. Again, Jim Irsay's kind of, rubbed me the wrong way with the different banners inside of Lucas Oil Stadium.
Well, the Knicks have done
Celebrate it, enjoy it. I thought Halliburton had a great comment yesterday of I'll probably react to this title differently than LeBron will react to this title.
Yeah.
Yes, we can enjoy, we can celebrate. Great accomplishment. Don't think we need to have Boomer up in the rafters.
Yeah, I thought you might scold me over that because my thing was I kind of laughed it off. I go, no, enjoy your trophy, enjoy your money.
You can enjoy
Don't
it.
hang no damn banner.
But again, we don't need to be stitching something up there next to Reggie and Roger Brown.
You know what that
and
is? It's just
there.
the internet's going to make fun of you. That's what it is. The internet's going to make fun of you.
The Colts are the laughing meme with that banner.
No. Now the Knicks have had a little bit. They hung a couple banners, but the Colts. Unfortunately for Colts fans, yeah. When you think of memes involving a banner that should not be in the rafters, especially when you've won a Super Bowl, that would be one of them. Carlisle was actually asked about this yesterday.
Oh, I think you'll see a banner of some sort. That's up to the teams. I don't think that. I don't know this, but I see banners of all kinds in all different arenas. This is not an insignificant thing at all. It's certainly this being the first one is extra special.
Well, so there you go. Yeah, I have to disagree with Coach a little bit.
We might have to toss that his way.
Before we get to a check down, you just mentioned money, and it made me think of a story that I marked that I wanted to get to. Did you happen to see the Jacksonville Jaguar employee, now former employee, who is accused of stealing over a 4-year period over $22 million from the Jags?
I was shocked the Jags had that much money.
My man, I think this is Amit Patel, wire fraud, illegal monetary transaction. This came out yesterday. This over a 4-year period. He was a financial employee of the team. Of course he was. The number
I was really hoping he was the mascot.
Boy, he could have been. $22.2 million. He bought, now what did he buy? He bought what we all would buy. He bought a condo. He bought a Tesla Model 3. He bought crypto. He chartered private jets, luxury hotel stays, a country club membership, and multiple luxury wristwatches.
I was hoping they'd be like, yeah, he bought chlorine for the pool inside the stadium there.
He's like, why is he this blinged out? Like, we know he makes a good amount here with the team, but can he really afford a private jet? Five different $100,000 watches in a Tesla? What's going on here?
Country club membership, Tesla, the whole nine. All right, Rob Blackman in a few. Purdue north of the border against Alabama up in Toronto coming up this weekend. We'll get more on kind of that game, how it got set up and everything in a few. Let's morning check down it.
The Morning Checkdown. On 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, the big one tonight we've been talking about there in Vegas. It is Pacers. It is Bucks 4:30. Our coverage beginning here on The Fan. One thing we talked a little bit with Chris Denari there, managing the buzz around the team. So many people watching and seeing the Pacers for the first time. Here's Tyrese Halliburton yesterday.
how do you not feel the buzz? We all got social media. We all got stuff like that. So, yeah, it's hard not to. But, like we've talked about all year, the better we play, the more love we're going to get. And you got to, take that in stride, but understand that can be a poison to a sense at the same time. You still got to do what you do and approach the game the same and, just play patient basketball at the end of the day.
Curious to see Bruce Brown on Damian Lillard tonight. Again, Lillard did not play in that first matchup. A height standpoint, Bruce Brown much better suited, to face off against a guy like Lillard compared to some of these bigger wings. Maybe in the East he's been asked to guard. So obviously that'll be a big one and a big difference from these teams meeting a month ago in which the Pacers got the W. Just a walkthrough yesterday for the Colts, but the injury report looked like this. The guys that did not participate: Braden Smith, knee injury; Juju Brents, a quad; Jonathan Taylor, right thumb; and EJ Speed, who left for 2 plays in overtime with a knee injury there, but did return to that game. So those 4 obviously will be keeping an eye on. I don't expect Taylor to play. So those other 3, I guess, coming into today, their first practice of the week. And then late yesterday, practice squad member Al-Qadin Muhammad suspended by the NFL 6 games, performance-enhancing drugs. That name might be a little bit more familiar to Colts fans than most practice squad guys. He actually started every single game for the team 2 years ago, left and joined Chicago last season with Matt Eberflus, back with the Colts, I think right around training camp is when they signed him this year. And then again, he's been on the practice squad, has not played in a game all year long.
Can I ask you something about him? When a guy like this who is a practice squad player, when he gets popped, do you view it differently than Grover Stewart? I mean, Grover Stewart's such a huge part of this defense. With him, I almost view he's trying to stay in the NFL. Like some people say, well, he's doing everything he can to stay in the NFL, so he's taking a chance, right? We didn't do that with Grover Stewart. We scolded Grover Stewart. How could you do this? You're going to be out 6 games. The team needs you. But when it's a guy more towards the back end of a roster, you say, well, I mean, if he can, it was the old baseball thing. If he can stay in the show, he'll make this much money. If he doesn't stay in the show, he'll be in Double-A baseball.
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. My care factor is just not very high. And
it's not a story, no.
Right, and that's just probably reality of how you view guys within the roster hierarchy. It's kind of funny. Yesterday, we saw the fake John Rothstein account. Hunter Dickinson has been suspended for 3 games.
Oh, I didn't see this.
That includes Indiana. Again,
sure it does.
A fake account. If that was a Kansas walk-on, you just keep on scrolling, but because it was Hunter Dickinson,
right.
IU fans are falling in the trap and they're retweeting it, and then they realize it's a fake account.
Did anyone reputable retweet it?
I believe there were. I won't call out anybody here, but yes, I do believe a few were duped by the old fake John Rothstein yesterday.
Two things. I view Twitter as funny most of the time. So the Adarn Schefter, remember, where the M, instead of the M, it would be an R and an N. The Adarn Schefter made it look
correct.
like Adam Schefter a few years ago. And then I have a buddy who does sports radio in Nashville. And remember, is it Gerard Mayo when he was still playing with the Tennessee Titans? There was some story with him, and his producer got fooled by a fake Schefter or Mortensen or somebody else. And he did an entire segment on Mayo being like out, being like injured or traded or suspended or something, and that did not go over well, I believe, during a commercial break. That's funny. Come on.
You get duped, and it can get ugly there pretty quickly.
We've all been duped.
Lastly, Thursday Night Football. That is Patriots and Steelers. The over-under's 30.
Cool.
That's the lowest the NFL has seen in 3 decades. Again, the Colts need the Patriots to win if you're looking at it from a playoff standpoint. Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilers, next.
The Legends Golf Club at Franklin is offering a limited number of 2-year memberships for
Fun show today. Appreciate Chris Denari joining us. Rob Blackman going to join us here in just a moment. Purdue basketball back in action on Saturday against Nate Oates. I like Nate Oates. Alabama not as good this season than number 1 Arizona on that Super Saturday here in Indy on December 16th. Going to be a lot of fun as well. Reminder, you miss any of our show, any of the shows here on The Fan, you can find us 1075thefan.com. Well, let's go on out to the Payless Liquors hotline. Rob Blackman joins us, voice of Purdue men's basketball. Rob, good morning, sir. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Doing very well, Andy. And let me say, I'm a huge fan of your call screener, Kylan.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time ever in my history of doing these shows, she actually asked me what I would like for the song to be playing as you came out of commercial break. I've never been asked that before. Of course, I panicked because I'd never been asked before. I didn't know what to say. But I thought that was pretty damn cool. If I had to do it all over again, I would have asked for a Kiss song since
okay.
the Kiss fans know they played their final show ever this past weekend at Madison Square Garden. I should have gone with Kiss. I panicked. I apologize to Kylan, but I do appreciate the gesture.
Well, we'll have some outro music.
Yeah,
we'll
I was going to
Kiss
say,
as the outro, if
dial
you don't
that
mind.
up to send you off to Toronto, Rob.
Cool. You know, that's funny. The only time I've ever seen those guys live in person was in Toronto, like 5 years ago. I went up there and saw them. So yeah, that's kind of cool, at least for an old guy like me.
Is it their final show, or is it kind of their final show, and they'll be back, in 2 years down the road? What do you think?
I know, yes.
Yeah.
Because they pulled this before, haven't they?
Everyone does. Yeah.
It's a Tony Kanaan Indy 500 feel to it.
Yeah, they claim that this was it. This past weekend, never again will they step on stage. So that's what they say for now, anyway.
He is voice of the Boilers, diehard Kiss fan. That would be Rob Blackman with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Rob, I was honestly hoping, for you to, which you always do, but, a little bit of an education on this game. I kind of, obviously the Zach Edey sort of reunion, try to get him a game north of the border, et cetera, et cetera. But how did this game kind of come about? Alabama as the opponent with Purdue playing in Toronto coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, so the way it's been explained to me, and I think this is correct, actually, a promoter reached out to Purdue really early spring of last year and said, hey, would you guys like to come up to Toronto and play a game because of the Zach Edey connection? And again, this is how it was explained to me, the only caveat was the promoter did not want Purdue if Zach Edey was going to leave for the NBA. Because then obviously the game doesn't make a whole lot of sense, him being a Toronto kid. So when Zach made that decision that he was going to come back and play his senior season at Purdue, then they were like, yeah, okay, so let's do it. So that's the way I understood it. It's also my understanding, I think, and I don't know the young man's name, so I'll apologize. I think Alabama actually also used to have a Toronto kid on their roster, but he did not come back. So he's no longer with them. So there would have been 2 Toronto kids playing in this game. But anyway, that's from a Purdue standpoint. That's how that all came about was, look, we'd love to have you, but Zach Edey has to be on your team. So when he decided to come back, then they're like, okay, yeah, we'll still have you guys for this game.
Everyone had their passport?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. It's going to be pretty embarrassing for one of our players or coaches if they don't, because we're actually headed up there tonight. We're going to have an extra day up there for I don't really know why, but typically we'd only leave the day before the game. But yes, I guess we'll find out tonight at the Purdue airport if someone doesning have a passport.
Have you spent time in Toronto?
Pardon me?
Have you spent time in Canada or Toronto? It's a great city.
So I actually worked actually, I've been there 3 times. Saw the Kiss concert. I actually worked an IndyCar race, the Toronto race, like 5 years ago. But the first time I ever went was way back when I was working for the Indiana Firebirds in the Arena Football League, and Toronto actually had a team, and we played up there. So
wow,
that's going way back. But so I've been up there a few times.
Gosh, I didn't have the Firebirds in the bingo card today. Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilers, he's with us here as Purdue gets ready to take on Alabama up in Toronto coming up on Saturday. I guess about a month into things, Rob, biggest surprise, good or bad, from the Boilers' start this season?
The fact that Purdue has shot the three-point ball well. I mean, not well. I haven't checked today's numbers, updated stats, but Purdue had been the number 1 team in the Big Ten in three-point shooting percentage. Last year they were at 32%, and that was it was really unexplainable because it's the same guys shooting them, and these guys came to Purdue as pretty skilled shooters to begin with. They just didn't shoot it very well last year as a team. But like I said, that number's up around 41% right now, which I do believe leads the Big Ten. So that's been the most pleasant surprise. The biggest disappointment is the fact that Purdue has not done a good job of taking care of the basketball. Normally when you have guys that shoot it well, that means they're skilled. And skilled normally means you take care of the ball as well. It's they go hand in hand. But for whatever reason, this group has not done a good job of that. 13, probably about 12.5 turnovers a game, just way too many. I mean, you look back at that game at Northwestern, Purdue out-rebounds Northwestern by 25 rebounds. 25 rebounds. Purdue went to the foul line 41 times and still lost. I mean, that's kind of hard to do. You get that many extra possessions, and you go to the foul line that many times, but it was the turnovers. Purdue, for all those extra possessions Purdue was getting, they're giving them right back to Northwestern in turnovers. So that's been the disappointing thing. Now, to be fair, Purdue's played some pretty good defensive teams here, Marquette, Tennessee, so that number gets inflated a little bit because a lot of teams are going to turn it over against those folks. But yeah, that turnover number needs to come down for Purdue if they want to really have a magical season.
Rob Blackman with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline, voice of Purdue basketball. They're off to Canada. Big game there against Alabama. And then number 1, Arizona. That's going to be a lot of fun coming up on December 16th there at Gamebridge. Lance Jones, the transfer there from Southern Illinois, about 11, 12 points a game, shooting over 43%. What has he brought to the team here in just a few weeks into the season?
Well, he certainly brought some veteran savvy, which this group needs. Purdue is still really a young team in the backcourt. You think about Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer; they're still just sophomores, even though they started every game last year as freshmen. The only 2 guys on the team to do that, by the way. Zach Edey didn't even start every game last year, but those guys are still sophomores, so there's still a bit of a learning curve for them. There's no real learning curve for Lance Jones. I mean, he's a fifth-year guy. 1,600 career points, or right at 1,600 career points now. Came to Purdue not only known as a scorer from Southern Illinois, but also a really good defensive player. He was Missouri Valley Conference All-Defensive Team 2 years in a row. So just that veteran savvy and leadership is what he's really provided. And the other thing that really, really, really helps with him is Purdue now has another capable ball handler in the backcourt for full court pressure. We saw that against Iowa Monday night. Iowa has, in the past, typically really given Purdue fits with that full court press of theirs. That was not the case on Monday night. Purdue only had 8 turnovers. One of the reasons is you don't have to have Braden Smith being the only guy to try to break the press. You now finally have another capable ball handler back there to help him, and it's sure easier to break that press with two capable ball handlers instead of one. So that's where Lance has really added a big-time boost. I don't know if his shot selection is always something that pleases Matt Painter. He's taken some.
Shot a couple from Attica.
Yes, from Attica. But hey, listen, he also made a 3/4 court shot over in Honolulu, so maybe that's not all bad for him. I don't know.
He is Rob Blackman. He's voice of the Boilers. He's with us here again. Purdue and Alabama coming up in Toronto on Saturday, and then a week from Saturday right here at Gamebridge Fieldhouse against Arizona. Rob, I'm sure you've done the math, so I will ask you because I have not done it, and I know Zach Edey's on the verge of passing Robbie Hummel on Purdue's all-time scoring list. I think that would push him up to 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Can he pass? Yes, is it realistic to pass Rick Mount? Like, could he get to number 1?
Well, I haven't actually done the math as far as the hard numbers go. I have had it passed along to me by more than one person that has done the math, that it is not. It's not out of the question. Let's put it that way. Now, what he would need to average for the rest of the season, how many games Purdue would have to play, that I do not know.
Right, and there's a big gap from 1 to 2, right? Joe Barry Carroll.
Yes, that's where the big gap is. Yeah. Absolutely. But yes, it is conceivable. And to think about, you're seeing, and you guys know this, but you're seeing all these college basketball records, scoring, rebounding, whatever, get obliterated these days, but they're by 5th year and 6th year guys.
Mike Davis's kid, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Remember, Zach's just a fourth-year guy. I mean, which that sounds like old school now, right? Like, oh my God, he was only around 4 years. But he's played a bunch since he was a freshman, but he's a 4-year guy. So I say a bunch. You think about his freshman and sophomore years, he was playing 19 minutes a game. So maybe that's not a bunch. But yeah, it is again. I don't know the numbers. I haven't crunched them out. But you are correct. He's on the verge of passing Robbie Hummel. Will probably do that this week for 10th. And it is, as it's been explained to me, it is conceivable he could get to number 1 and pass Rick Mount.
Yeah, I think he passes Hummel this weekend, and then Walter Jordan probably in Cambridge. He'll move up. Now, I did the numbers quickly. He needs 78 points to pass Mount. Those are the numbers we're looking at. If I broke that down and divided by 22, that's just the regular season games left. He would have to average 26 points per game to basically get there. But then you throw in Big Ten tournament.
Yeah,
you throw in
8 or 9 more games.
Yeah, you throw in NCAA tournament. So
that seems doable.
Yeah, when I was looking at this morning, because Robbie Hummel actually retweeted it late last night.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to say the word Robbie Hummel used in the tweet.
No, he used a bad word there that we cannot say on FM radio, but I looked at it and said, well, there's no way he's going to get to number 1. But looking at it now, especially, if you're thinking 3-4 games, whatever it may be, 3 games, Big Ten tournament, you hope Purdue makes that run this year in the NCAA tournament in March. Edey's going to average. He's going to be putting up over 20 a game, 25 a game. There's an absolute chance that he could do that. Rob Blackman with us. Rob, one more. One of our bosses passed this along, so I'll be the guy that asks the question. He was wondering, Ethan Morton played a lot against Iowa, has not played a lot this season, but did play, I believe, 26 minutes against Iowa. Why have his minutes been kind of up and down this season? Any theory on that?
Not so much a theory as the fact that really it's just come down to matchups and which games better suit his skill level. The one thing Ethan brings to the table is he doesn't turn the ball over. I think he only has 2 turnovers for the whole season, maybe 3 for the whole season. So Matt Painter likes that. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's one of your best on-ball defenders, and he's a really good rebounder. What he doesn't do is he doesn't score the ball. That's not his forte. So it really becomes a matchup thing for him. And who are the other guys playing around him? When we have a group on the floor of guys, the other 4 guys that can score the ball at a high level, then you're not really too concerned about Ethan having to score. There are certain combinations where he goes in the game where he has to pick up some of the scoring load, and it just doesn't work. That's what we found through these first 8 or 9 games of the season. So that's what it really boils down to. But, hey, he was terrific Monday night. I mean, you look at his numbers. For a guy that didn't score a point, he was terrific in that game. By the way, I need to say this. We were talking about breaking Rick Mount's record. The Rick Mount fans are going to get on me if I don't mention this. I'm talking about Zach Edey being a 4-year player.
Yeah, Rick played 3.
Fans, Rick Mount was a 3-year player.
Right. Wow.
He did that in 3 years.
The old freshman rule, right?
Freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty awesome right there to do that in 3 seasons and with no 3-point line, by the way. So keep that in mind, fans of Rick Mount.
Last one, Rob Blackman. I don't know if we've ever asked you this. What's the loudest Big Ten venue? And you can't say Mackey. Give us 1, 2, 3 on the list, if you don't mind.
Well,
is he allowed to say Bloomington?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, Bloomington is without question in the top 3. There's no way around that. In the Breslin Center. You know what is sneakily, if that's a word, sneakily loud? You don't think about it going into it. Is Maryland now with this qualifier when it's full? When that building is full and
it's a big venue, right?
There. What's that?
That's a big arena, isn't it?
Big arena, and maybe even up to 19,000, maybe.
Jeez.
The problem is, and it's not a problem, I suppose, if you're the opponent. If you get them on like a 6:30 weekday game, there's no one there because the traffic's so terrible. It's hard to get to the game on a weekday. But you catch them on a Saturday afternoon when folks can get there and they can fill up the building. That place gets really, really loud. So I would say yes, in no particular order, because all 3 of them get pretty pretty lunatic-like. Certainly Bloomington, Breslin Center, and in Maryland.
Yeah, I've been to about half of them, and I thought the Cole Center was also pretty loud. Again, this was a 9 o'clock Thursday tip, so that probably helps from a student libation activity, and Jordan Taylor and company had a pretty good team that year. But, yeah, those ones certainly make sense. Rob, safe travels. If you do any sightseeing, enjoy that. Good luck with your KISS concert if they do have another comeback.
They will.
And we'll see you at Gamebridge a week from Saturday.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Look at this. Look at the outro.
Yeah.
Kylan's on it. Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilers. Purdue and Bama coming up. Not typical Bama from what they've been in recent years. It'll be Indiana and Auburn Saturday in Atlanta, Purdue and Alabama. So it's the in-state Big Ten schools with the Alabama schools coming up this
I'm
Saturday.
trying to think who they had on their team who is from Canada now. That's bothering me.
It was a center. I
know.
I do remember looking this up when the game was announced because I thought that as well. Why Alabama? It seemed kind of random there. Granted, Nate Oates has certainly played a tough non-conference schedule. That's one thing he's wanted there down at Bama. All right, in about 10 minutes, we'll get more into the Bengals. Colts and Bengals coming up week 14. Charlie Clifford, you've heard his voice a whole lot on these airwaves. Now in the NBC affiliate in Cincy, he'll join us. We'll continue the Pacers-Bucks combo semifinal game tonight, 5 o'clock from Vegas. We'll do it on the other side. It's the wake-up call, KB and Andy.
You promised.
I took the garbage out.
The Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5
I see the
and
blackjack
107.5.
table.
The Fan.
I see the roulette wheel. And I see Eddie Gill, the slot machines.
I wish I was seeing all those things in Vegas. Pacers get ready for the Bucks tonight. 4:30 hour coverage beginning.
I love that Mark
Fan.
Boyle clip.
You do love that.
Oh man, that's great.
That's maybe the piece of sound since we've been together that delights you the most, perhaps.
I know. I thought it was such a great
It really
call.
might be.
You know, Boyle's such a unique voice, and he's got a very unique style to how he presents radio and paints those pictures on a night in, night out basis. And to hear that emotion from him late, I thought was really, really cool on Monday.
I think he got caught up on the air at the very end. He's like, what else would be out there besides the blackjack and the roulette? And he landed
Someone's
the
got to be
plane.
on the slots.
Yes. Oh, I mean, listen, people sit there for hours. Okay, so I know this is not Purdue. We just got done with Rob Blackman. I don't know if you have seen this. And we'll talk some Bengals and Colts. Charlie Clifford going to join us here in about 6 minutes. Purdue Fort Wayne. Do you know their mascot?
The Mastodons. Come on.
Okay, well, I knew you would know, if anyone would know. I just saw this come by Twitter. Purdue Fort Wayne, they won last night, by the way. They beat Southern, I believe it was Southern Illinois. Hang on just a second. Yeah, they beat Southern
DePaul
Indiana.
earlier in the year.
No,
Big East DePaul.
They beat Southern Indiana, okay? Rashid Bello lost his shoe. He's a defender for Purdue Fort Wayne. Did you see this? Of course he did.
I did. Yeah.
People need to look it up. Rashid Bello lost his shoe, was still playing defense, and then used the shoe to block a shot. And I need to tweet this out at the Only Sweeney. There's the photo of him.
It's a great photo, by the way.
No, he legit used his white shoe to block a jump shot from Southern Indiana.
Yeah, whatever his wingspan is, add a couple inches onto it.
It's a heady play. One of the great
Now,
plays
is this
in college
allowed?
basketball. Also a great question. I have no idea. It doesn't look like they called anything, but, my video is only about 5 seconds long.
God bless.
What a great video.
The heady, basketball IQ, everything you want. Is he from Indiana? It's just such an
I'm
Indiana
sure he is.
play.
I'll look it up.
Right there. All right, Charlie Clifford, he's going to join us next. It was a wild week for the Cincinnati Bengals. Charlie was in Jacksonville for Monday Night Football, so certainly one of our favorites. Always enjoyed talking with Charlie. He's down there now at the NBC affiliate. He joins us next.
If you're talking about it.
DriveHubler.com studios, KB and Andy, Kevin Bowen, Andy Sweeney hanging out with you. Another hour to go. Reminder coming your way at noon, Query and Company, and then JMV at 3 o'clock, and he will lead in to Pacers and Bucks. Our coverage here on The Fan beginning at 4:30. Now, you're gonna be home and rested and ready to go at 4:30, KB? You know, I have nothing to do, but what do you have to do? You're a big family man here.
Yeah.
You got jobs, you got things to do, you got articles to write. Are you going to be locked in at 5 o'clock, or what are you going to be doing? Making dinner or what?
It'll be some multitasking.
Okay.
I think I've told you. I don't know if I told our listening audience. Maddie broke her foot last week.
Yeah, I don't know if you've told the audience. This is a
not
very
sure if I
sad
have,
story,
so,
dude.
She's putting up a wreath and fell and broke her foot, so she is non-weight bearing for a month here.
That's brutal, man.
So it is a lot of multitasking with the kids. I'll be totally selfish for myself. I hate the 5 o'clock tip. I hate it.
I know. You need 7:30, 7:30.
I don't even mind the 8.
Or what?
The 9 o'clock peacock on Tuesday wasn't that bad for me. So, yeah, selfishly, I don't love it at all.
Is she able to drive or what?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, so you're having to do... You're carting around everybody right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit of scramble mode in the Bowen household. Again, 5 o'clock tonight on ESPN, you'll get a crossover with Reggie Miller joining Mike Breen, Doris Burke, Lisa Salters, and then it'll be TNT at 9 o'clock. So the Lakers and Pelicans kind of close to a pick'em in that one. Pacers 4.5-point underdog. Lakers and Pels coming up at 9 o'clock. That is the other semifinal. Charlie Clifford, hopefully we will get him on air here coming up in a few minutes to talk some Colts and Bengals. Did you see the initial Pro Bowl voting is out?
No, I didn't know.
Vote.
Is this something that's going to anger Colts fans, or what should we look out for here?
Yeah,
because
the Colts
we know the names that will be up there.
Garner a lot of fan voting,
Sure.
to be totally honest with you. Right now, they have 3 players in the top 10 of fan voting at their respective positions, okay?
Okay.
3 players in the top 10 of their respective positions in fan voting. Care to take a stab at the 3 players?
Well, I mean, I would imagine Michael Pittman Jr. and Zaire Franklin would be on that list. If not, I don't know what people are watching. Those 2 would be on the list. And then as a third, let me throw in Matt Gay. How does that sound? Matt Gay would be number 3.
To me, I think Matt Gay is incredibly deserving. Zaire Franklin, 3rd in inside linebacker fan voting. I think that's a great sign for Zaire. Typically when you don't have the fanfare, it's not like he's been a routine Pro Bowler.
Sure.
Usually it takes a year to kind of build up the fan voting, but Zaire Franklin 3rd, so that's good news for him. Quentin Nelson, 7th among guards.
Okay.
And
I guess that surprises me, right? Doesn't that surprise you?
Oh, no, I think Nelson's got a lot of national fanfare.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to talk national guards,
Sure.
I mean, Nelson to me, hell, he's a 6th overall pick and, pancakes, et cetera, et cetera. The last one would be Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore, 10th among corners. So no Pittman on that list.
Well, how is there no Pittman? Is that just because there's so many good wide receivers?
I was gonna say,
people pay attention to Tyreek Hill and everybody else.
Too many well-known wideouts. And,
he's 88 catches, 87 catches
right
now.
But you know how the fan voting works.
I know. Well, it's too bad. I was hoping someone would be really slighted, and then we could start a whole campaign around them to get them votes, right? That could be a nice local sports radio thing to do.
No Matt Gay, no DeForest Buckner. That was the other one I would probably throw on that list. No Michael Pittman Jr. The top 5 players in the NFL in fan voting. Number 1, this kind of surprises me a little bit, Tua.
Really?
Tua's number 1, 59,000 votes, 15,000 more than number 2 being C.J. Stroud.
Stroud, man. He's taken the NFL
Buckeye
by storm,
Nation.
man. I mean, I guess he's a fun player. If you're watching Red Zone on a Sunday, they're going and they're showing a lot of C.J. Stroud.
3, 4, 5 makes sense. Probably your top 3 non-quarterback offensive players. Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. So fan voting underway for the Pro Bowl. I know a lot of people are saying, who cares about the Pro Bowl? The game stinks. It's turned into, a glorified skills competition.
It's not even a game anymore,
right.
Is it?
Yeah. I totally get all of that. I will deny none of it. Guys care about it. Guys want the recognition. They want it's very similar to Tyrese Halliburton wanting the national TV games. And for a lot of these guys, there's some contractual bonuses with that as well. I do think All-Pro, a little bit more of an indicator than Pro Bowl. Again, Pro Bowl voting is 3rd fan, 3rd player, 3rd coach. All-Pro, just immediate vote.
Remember like 3-4 years ago, and it could have even been longer. Remember when Kansas City Royal fans stuffed the ballot early on, and like almost their entire starting infield would have started the game had they stopped voting then? Remember Major League Baseball? You'd be like, all right, we're going to spread this out a little bit. Yeah. It happened because no one knew who any of these players.
Do they still do one Major League Baseball player from each team to the All-Star game?
I think so. Yeah, that's a good June or July sports radio. Why does the game mean something if someone from the Pittsburgh Pirates is on the game? How the hell is Kelsey 5? Isn't he, Mr. Football?
Yeah, Swifties, I guess, haven't gotten the link. Yeah, that's a great call.
I'm calling Swifties out. All I hear about is these
I might be a solo co-host moving forward.
These Taylor Swift fans, they got her Time Person of the Year, and Travis Kelce's sitting at 5th? He's sitting at 5th behind Tua? And a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud?
The Swifties have lost their fastball.
Yeah, they really, they're still a very good pitcher, but they're more painting the edges like Greg Maddux now.
Could you make any argument? I don't think you can, so I just showed my hand a little bit there. Could you make any argument Juju Brents back in the lineup would be better than having Grover Stewart back in the lineup?
Well, I think you can because they've won 4 straight, and we did this in hour number 1. Look at the teams they beat. Obviously, they weren't walking through the best part of their schedule were the Colts, but they did win 4 games without Grover Stewart. Juju Brents, he has moved into, given that he's been out so long with the bye week, he's missed, 7 weeks basically? 6-7 weeks. Since he's done that, being a second-round pick, KB, he is one of the guys you wanted to see a lot of. And so you will go into next year, unless Brents is back here and, makes his presence known, if you will, in the final month, and then they make the playoffs if he plays there and plays well, you will have had your first-round pick and your second-round pick not play very much football for you in their first season.
Yeah,
and that's kind of a bummer.
People have asked, okay, where would corner kind of fall on the offseason need list? And I'm a little torn on it. Part of me still thinks that there's a tier 1, and it's wide out pass catcher with edge rusher. That, to me, is still kind of tier 1 on the offseason need list. And, again, I'm probably more of an edge rusher over wide out pass catcher. A lot of people would say corner should be on that tier. I don't think it's maybe on that level. I think it's probably just behind it.
You keeping Kenny Moore? Doesn't it start there as well?
I think Kenny Moore is a definite reason. Hell, if you're going to let Kenny Moore walk, then
it's a build there, full rebuild
then
at
maybe
the corner
it's a different
spot.
story at corner. But I guess in a, more from Jalen Jones. I know there's been some up and downs, but I think, more ups and downs. Maybe I'm grading him on a curve because he was a 7th-round pick. And I liked what Juju Brent showed in the small sample size. The problem, Andy, is he's been the most hurt player on the team, not named Jelani Woods this season, and it's been a variety of injuries. And then Dallas Flowers, again, I kind of liked where he was at early in the season, but, a corner coming off a torn Achilles, you just can't bank a whole lot on that going into next season. So, if I were going to make, and, it's kind of an annual exercise that I do, a positional mock draft. So, no players, just strictly off of positional needs. Again, edge rush round 1, wide out round 2, corner round 3. That's probably a rough sketch of where I'm at right now. But I do think if you look at the opponent on Sunday, again, I think Grover is more important. But we saw that Saints game a month ago. When a team has a little bit of a deep wideout core, how do they test your depth at corner? Now, that was Tony Brown, remember. So now you've evolved to Darrell Baker Jr., who has played, I think, better than he did early in the year. But how does T. Higgins versus Jalen, they don't really follow a corner with the top wideout. It's not Kenny Moore following Jamar Chase around. So Jalen Jones is going to have Chase at times. And Darrell Baker Jr., that side of the field is going to have Jamar Chase at times. And yes, you're going to play a good amount of zone. But how do you handle those guys? You lost Mike Evans. You've lost DeAndre Hopkins. It's not like you've taken away these number 1
Mike
wideouts
Evans was
here.
wide open. Yeah.
So I do think that is a huge question for Sunday.
If they lose on Sunday, is it as simple as their corners just could not contain? And of course, it's not just that simple. A lot's going to happen during the game. But that is number 1 on our list, is it not? When we do the picks and everything.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question.
The
other thing I'd throw in there, can your pass rush continue to rev it up like they have? I think the sack statistic can be such a combination of O-line and poor quarterback play. like quarterbacks that just don't process and recognize quickly enough, therefore they're under siege and boom, they go down. How does your pass rush do? I don't think Cincinnati's offensive line is great by any means. So again, can you take advantage of that? And can you create, Jake Browning to be put into some of those moments, which I'll reiterate what I said earlier in the show, Andy. When Jacksonville blitzed Jake Browning, he said, bring it.
Right.
8 of 13 for 150 and 0 sacks when Jacksonville blitzed Jake Browning on Monday night. Now, you're going to probably scold me for this, but have you seen the weather for this weekend?
Oh, boy. In Cincinnati, it's going to be cold. Is it going to be rainy, snowy? I have not. I know here, I think there's some precipitation going to be in the air in Indianapolis. So how's it going to be in Cincinnati?
It looks a tad dicey.
Okay.
It might be a little bit more Saturday than Sunday, but of course, it's an outdoor stadium there in Cincinnati. Right now, as I pull up one of their local weather news stations, 90% on Saturday. No one cares about that. Sunday's got 50%.
Okay.
I would say poor weather favors the Colts, right?
Probably, but also that's a cop-out for the weather people. 50%? Give me something better than that. I can do that. Plant your flag, have an opinion. What are we doing here? That's like if we were paid just to read the news, just to read Indy Star's website or ESPN.com. Don't give me 50%. Give me an 85 or a 15. What are we doing here?
If you are the Colts, you want the precipitation, right?
I guess probably. I would say probably. The only thing I would say is they always say, like in weather games where you have snow, the offense knows where they're going and the defense doesn't. That would be the only thing that would worry me. But if you tell me I get Jake Browning and it's raining and I get the way the Colts have been able to win some kind of ugly, low-scoring games, I would go there. The Colts pass rush and everything else. You do hope E.J. Speed, who you mentioned, would have been out of practice yesterday. We'll see if he's back today. Kai, go ahead and play clip 9. Here's Steichen. Your voice is in the middle of this. He talked about those wide receivers, those weapons that Cincinnati has.
You got 3 dudes that are really good players, and obviously we got to have a really good plan for all 3 of them. Obviously Jamar Chase is kind of their go-to guy, but those other 2 guys are legit players. But yeah, they got 3 dudes that can play.
Did you watch Monday night live?
Yeah, I watched it in and out in my office when I was watching tape of them. But yeah, I watched it a little bit.
And I know we brought that up earlier. I do think not for Steichen, more for the players, that got their attention. Like if you're a Colts defender and you're watching that game, you don't think Jake Browning got your attention?
Oh, I said this in the 7:30. I think it's a great thing that Jake Browning did that against Jacksonville. There's no excuse for the Colts to be caught off guard by the passing game, thinking, it's Jake Browning. He's another long line of kind of questionable quarterbacks we've played. I think listen, I know you may say, well, you're going to get ready, and you mentioned this, well, you're a pro. You need to, everyone who's in the NFL can ball out. I get that, but come on. They have faced some quarterbacks who are not very good. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Bryce Young, kind of an iffy Baker Mayfield. It's been a long line of mediocre quarterbacks, really, since the Saints and what that offense did. That's the way I look at it, at least.
And I think what separates Cincinnati's wideouts from even New Orleans or Jacksonville, when you played them a couple times this year, is all of those teams, Jacksonville, New Orleans, and Cincy, I think they've got good depth at wideout. But what Cincy has is they've got the top-end dude.
They have the alpha dog.
The other 2 teams don't. And
right.
Jamar Chase showed that on Monday night. So, yes, testing cornerback depth certainly something.
It's bad luck. Higgins has been out. Higgins has had on a contract year. We've talked about contract years, and I know Pittman and Higgins drafted next to each other, so they're kind of linked here. A guy, free agency, T. Higgins has just been, he just hasn't had it this year. He's had so many injuries with Joe Burrow being in and out of the lineup, especially early in the season as well. You know what my favorite part of that Steichen clip is? That it's like 9:30 and he's like, yeah, I was watching film. It's so football, coach.
Don't think Shane Steichen's binging, Virgin River or insert your Netflix series right here.
What do you think the last TV series Shane Steichen watched even is? I see him watching
Hard Knocks from 2004.
That's what I was going to say. Hard Knocks. What was the show with The Rock that was very popular? Ballers?
Yeah.
Did you ever get into Ballers?
Yeah, Last Chance You is what Shane Steichen's watching here. Did I see I thought I saw a headline a little bit ago that Notre Dame's going to do a Hard Knocks on Peacock.
Yeah, and I was an idiot. During the break, you mentioned this, and I go, oh, football, right? Like they would do one on the basketball team at Notre Dame. No offense, of course, to Coach Shrewsbury and company. Are you okay with that? I feel like that's something old school Notre Dame never would have done.
No, I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, everything you should do as a college football program should be, how do we cater to the 16 or 17-year-old kid? Period.
Well, there you go. Do they
Period.
have Peacock?
Well,
is Eddie Garrison going to have to give his password
Marcus
to Jake
Freeman
Query?
can leak his password to these
yes.
high school recruits. How about this from Anthony here? Since he has a heated field, it will mitigate weather. I helped build their system.
Oh, how about that? Okay,
but
that's good to know.
It is slick. Yeah, I honestly brought it up more just from if it rains, I would think that would hinder Jake Browning's passing game and would lean more on a run game, and the Colts have been the more effective run unit this season. I mean, Cincinnati's defense, Andy, this is something we haven't talked about. It stinks.
Yeah, it's been
They're
bad.
like dead last in run, pass, total yard, like all of it.
I mean, Jacksonville was fine. I mean, Jacksonville scored over 30 points. C.J. Beathard came in and was able to play. Yeah, that's why I took him in my Survivor League, is because I thought that Cincinnati defense. By the way, is our guy Charlie Clifford not going to come through?
I thought,
is he awake? He's a TV guy, so he probably worked till like 2 a.m. last night, didn't he, or what?
Pardon me, did he have a few at Rheingeist after the old 11 o'clock news, and he's
Bubbles?
feeling it?
Is that one of their Truth?
I like Truth.
Bubbles?
Yeah, Maddie's a big Bubbles fan.
Okay, there you go. So we encapsulated.
Great space, by the way, at the Rheingeist Brewery for any Colts fan heading down there this weekend. It's a great spot.
I told Eddie Garrison this, and he knows, and he's been there to games with the Bengals and Reds. If you go and you're a Colts fan and you're not used to the whole Cincinnati layout, do not park underground.
I know. I got my parking pass yesterday.
Did you?
And
you're going then?
Yeah. And I am
nice.
I am underground.
I know exactly where you're parked because I've been there on a media pass before.
I got stuck in it a few years ago.
Listen, KB.
So where do I park?
Listen, pay the $40 and park just a little bit a ways, a couple blocks away, and park in some guy's front yard or in a parking lot where you're going to be
front
able
yard?
to get out.
Are there any homes around that play?
I don't know.
feel like
just said front yard. No,
am I
it's
staying
not.
in Kentucky?
No, it's not.
I did
the
say Kentucky
Derby
for my bachelor party. Well, on the Kentucky side.
Oh, okay, yeah, Northern Kentucky. You could do that.
Park at the aquarium.
I'm telling you,
aquarium's so
I know.
overpriced.
I know exactly where they have your parking. You will not be out. This is a 1 o'clock game. The game's over. Let's say you're done now. You will be writing and you'll do some media stuff, so you'll have some time. I have parked under there for, I think, last year, Packers and Bengals. I worked that game, and KB, it took over 2.5 hours to get out of that garage.
Okay,
I'm not kidding.
This is quite the warning from you here.
And I went with some buddies.
This sounds awful, by
We
the way.
went to the Yankees-Reds, and this is before people cared about the Reds, before they brought up other AAA guys, and people started to act like Reds fans again. I know you guys have had that joke on the show. And we parked on the main lot under Great American, and it was the same thing. It didn't move. We left for 30 minutes, came back. It still didn't move. We went to the casino. Or not the casino, the sports book, that's right there.
Well, they got Jack's, don't they? Jack's Casino?
Yeah, they do. It's a little further away. This was, they have like a FanDuel or whatever it is.
That was
right
where,
there at Great American.
You know what happened to that sports book? That was where the Alabama baseball coach, Buddy, placed all those bets on.
Like a $10,000 bet.
He was a Mooresville guy.
Yeah, it was.
He got busted.
It was LSU Alabama baseball, was it not?
And the Friday night starter was a late scratch.
Yeah, because when that happened, they said where it was, and I'm like, I've been there. If I walked up to that window and said, I want to make a $10,000 bet, those people would look at us like we're crazy.
A $10,000 bet on an SEC Friday night baseball game.
On a baseball game where some sports books, if you remember, came out and said, we didn't take one bet. Not one bet, and this guy's trying to make a $10,000 bet. But that's all I would say to Colts fans. If you got to pay an extra $20 to park above ground, for the love of God, do it. I'm telling you,
this
it will
is the
save
biggest
you.
warning shot that you've given me.
It will save you, unless you just want to, enjoy some bars downtown and you're staying the night and it doesn't matter.
I got to get back and do the show.
No, but I know you're not that way. I'm telling you, where you're parked, you won't be out of there till 6:30.
Do we care that another Colts player got busted for PEDs?
I don't. Well, I mean, I would care if it were, if it were Anthony Richardson, if he were healthy, or Gardner Minshew, but not a practice squad
the
player.
The juicy question of, is there a problem?
No, it's an individual thing, right?
So you don't look at it as there's something going around in the D-line room?
I
so
don't
all
look
of a
at
sudden,
it, no.
if, insert your Colts player, I won't, say a defensive lineman just in case they want to, have a word or two.
Yeah, they don't want their name attached to that.
Yeah.
I don't view it that way.
How many teams, I guess, in a year have 2 players busted for PEDs?
It's a good question. But only one of them is a guy that moves the needle in Grover Stewart, right?
Again, I would say that's not the case. To answer my own
case.
question, I don't have that big of an issue with it. Now, again, I'm probably a little bit pot kettle black if, all of a sudden that was Kwity Paye or DeForest Buckner, somebody else of note here. But, yeah, Al-Qadim Muhammad,
it matters who it
practice
is.
Squad player yesterday, has not played for the Colts all season, 6-game suspension. Corey says, never park under the stadium at Reds games. Either use Central Riverfront West or park across the river in Kentucky and walk across the bridge. Gosh, boy, that sounds miserable.
He's right. What was his name, Corey? He's spot on. No, what we did with the Reds game is a rookie mistake that we deserve to be sitting in traffic. Well, we didn't sit in traffic. We just waited.
You're telling me
I'm
parking like an Alcatraz and I'm not getting out.
Listen, I cannot warn you enough. I cannot warn you enough. And it's a bummer for you because you have free parking. If you park above ground, you're not going to have free parking. So that's the bummer for you. You're in a bad spot. I hate to say it. You're in a bad spot. I didn't know you were going, though.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. That's what, 90 minutes?
Yeah, right down the road.
A little bit north of there. Andrew Catalan? No.
Yeah.
Tom McCarthy this week.
Oh,
Catalan
was
last week, right?
Speaking of McCarthy, you see Mike McCarthy had appendicitis?
Yeah, I did see that.
And he's a football guy. He's like, I'm coaching on Sunday.
Of course. Well, it's a big one.
What, the appendix? It probably was. They're the number 1 offense right now in the NFL, do the Cowboys. Your Dallas Cowboys.
And Eagles Sunday Night Football. That's my Super Bowl pick. 14 straight wins at home for Dallas. You want to guess a line on that one?
Ooh, I'm going to say 3.5. I'm going to say 3.5 Dallas favored in this game.
You're a degenerate. You're all over it.
Yeah, I figured it'd be 3. I figured it'd be 3.5. By the way, am I wrong tonight? And this is how you know I'm wrong. Am I wrong to love the Patriots +6?
Oh boy.
I know, and I'm not saying listen, I know the Patriots offensively are just the absolute worst, but if they can get
if Bailey Zappi going to run the fake spike play again, it's going to work this time.
If they can just get 1 field goal, maybe 2, if they can have 6 points at halftime, I feel like I'm going to cover easily. Right?
I mean, this is exactly what Indiana fans thought when it was IU at Michigan.
I know.
This is exactly what Iowa fans thought last Saturday with Iowa and Michigan in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah, I know, you're right. I'm doing what I don't like what other people do.
Pittsburgh does seem pretty banged up. But again, a 6-point favorite tonight. The Steelers, Patriots, 8:15 on Amazon. All right, we'll try and wake Charlie Clifford here before the show ends. Pop quiz in a few. 317-239-1070 for that. Let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, the big one tonight, semifinals in the in-season tournament in the NBA. It is Pacers and Bucks coming your way at 5 o'clock. Our pregame coverage on The Fan beginning at 4:30. Cannot wait for that. One big difference between the game today and the game back, obviously, November 9th. Dame Lillard in the lineup tonight for Milwaukee. Here's Rick Carlisle yesterday on Dame, Giannis, and the entire team there with Milwaukee.
Lillard being out was a break that we caught on that particular night. On the one hand, that he wasn't out there. On the other hand, Giannis touched the ball 65 times in the game. So I don't know. Where's the bargain there? I mean, it's like that. But now Dame is healthy. Giannis is Giannis. Chris Middleton is another great player and an all-star. And if you look at his minutes trend, he's playing a few more minutes than he was earlier in the season, and he is finishing games now. So, the challenges are many.
Now, hear me out on this, all right?
Okay.
Giannis, 29th birthday yesterday.
I saw that.
A birthday in Vegas the night before a game?
I saw that.
I mean, come on.
You got to do something, right?
If you were Rick Carlisle, you grab Jarris Walker, you grab Ben Shepard, grab T.J. McConnell. and you say, you know what, you find Giannis at Caesars, and you make sure
you buy him a bottle
that he is out, and he is out very late.
I did see Carlisle had a quote where he's like,
"You want your $500,000 for this in-season tournament?
I'm with you.
You go do that.
You're right, Jarris. Go out there, lure him into the evils of Vegas.
Live up to your top 10
pick
pick
out.
hype.
Take the enemy out." I did see Carlisle was like, "Yeah, we trust our guys. You know, there's temptation in every NBA city, more here, but we trust our guys. They'll have a nice quiet dinner." I think he said, "Nice quiet dinner."
Yeah, quiet in Vegas is not necessarily the quiet in Kokomo, Indiana, the Hip Hugger or something like that.
The Hip Hugger.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
The Bucks put up 146 against New York. I'm trying to look at their most recent game, Andy. 23 3-pointers, season high. 9 guys hit at least 1 3. 6 guys hit at least 2. I mean, those stats really stand out to me. Now look at it one of two ways. That's the Knicks. First off, that's a good defensive team. But is that just home arena? You just got that common feel, and now, how do they perform on a neutral floor? I don't know. Kind of grasping at straws here, but nonetheless, 5 o'clock tonight, Pacers and Bucks. Again, ESPN. Our coverage will begin at 4:30, so a little abbreviated for JMV today.
Thursday night football tonight. We've talked about a lot about it. 6-point spread there. Over under 30.5 Patriots on the road with the Steelers. And then I should just throw in as well, big Major League Baseball trade. Juan Soto headed to the New York Yankees 1 year before his free agency. Juan Soto in a 7-player deal. I think Yankees got another pitcher back. 7-player deal, Juan Soto. Does that move the needle for the Bowen family at all? Was that a big deal? Were you guys watching that last night?
Care factor extremely small.
Me and Jimmy Cook, very, very excited about that. I'm sure he'll show that excitement at noon today.
Jimmy Cook took off the Chiefs and the Duke hat to put on his New York Yankees hat.
He went to the game. He went to Chiefs Green Bay, did he not?
Oh, I forgot he did.
Yeah, he did that.
Yeah, I got to ask him about that. Now, Shohei Ohtani was not happy that the Dodgers revealed that they talked with him. Is that right?
I don't know if he was happy or not, but come on. People know that he's going to go to a place like that. He's probably going to go to the Dodgers. They'll give him all the money.
Give him to the Reds.
Good for him.
La Rosa's and Skyline for life, Shohei Ohtani. Okay, injury report for the Colts yesterday. Just a walkthrough. The 4 guys, though, that did not participate. Braden Smith, again, he got hurt after 3 snaps on Sunday. Juju Brents remains out. Of course, Jonathan Taylor. And then also you had E.J. Speed with a knee injury as well. Speed did get hurt in overtime. Came back, though, and finished that game. So first official practice today. That will be something to keep an eye on as the Colts get ready for the Bengals here coming up in Week 14. Lastly, for me, Andy Sweeney, Ball State, they win last night at Detroit. It's a 7-2 start for Michael Lewis. So, again, a couple of mid-major teams off to a nice start. And I want to mention this. One of my favorite sporting events, and the pageantry around it is honestly why, but I do love the game itself.
Okay.
Army-Navy.
Yeah.
Coming up on Saturday afternoon, Gillette Stadium for that one. I guess that's nice to, kind of replicate the offense of the Patriots
I was about to say,
with Army and
Where's the
Navy.
joke?
You want to feel the feels. I do this every year. Maddie's like, oh my gosh, what are you really watching another Army Navy intro video? I go back and I watch Army Navy YouTube CBS intro videos. They're
do you really?
They're unbelievably well done.
No, I mean, they are. Yeah, that game, what do you think the over-under on that game is?
Oh,
I'm
that's
looking
a great
at,
one.
again, tonight, the over-under for the Steelers and Patriots is 30.5. Army, Navy, both of them 5-6. A lot's on the line, more so than some crap bowl game, but a lot is on the line. What do you think the over-under is for Army, Navy, Saturday, 3 o'clock on CBS?
There was one year where the game started, and all of a sudden, me and my brother-in-law, we just continued to bet the under.
Oh, yeah.
You just had the feel of
Good for you.
4 yards, not even 4 yards, 2 yards in a cloud of dust.
7-minute drives just so you can punt from the 42-yard line.
29.5 for the over-under.
27.5.
I love that.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
Army Navy Saturday afternoon. Cannot wait for that one. All right, on the other side, we will do the pop quiz. 317-239-1070. Give us a call. Pop quiz is next.
Heat and cool your man cave, attic,
You handle the pressure. Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, pop quiz time. I haven't read it through maybe as much as other days, but I'm glancing at it now.
Yeah, I have read
Not terrible.
I think the first 4 are doable.
Yeah.
5 just, I don't know. It just makes me mad, Scotty, more than anything.
The
5
Olympic
is
question.
an Olympic question.
Well, there you go. Better know your weightlifting. Now, we will have Charlie Clifford coming up here in about 12 minutes or so. We'll talk some Bengals football with him. All right, good deal. What caller do you want to go to? What number? It's your choice, KB.
What do we got here? 6-6 Bengals, 7-5 Colts. Let's go with the seventh caller today.
All right. That means it's John. John is on the line.
Hey, John.
Good morning, man. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, John. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Andy, welcome to Indianapolis.
Thank you.
And, Kevin, you and I have known each other for pretty much your whole life. My wife, Jackie, taught with your mom, Colleen. And so we've been over to the old house. Where was that, Carson?
Carson Courts. Look at you, John. Is this John Lindgren?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, John. How are you? Great to hear your voice. Appreciate you calling in. Yeah, 694 Carson Court, the cul-de-sac, baby.
Yeah, no, I loved it, and always had a really good time. And the other thing I'll say is that our granddaughter, first granddaughter, Marley, is about a month younger than Rosie, and so we've gone to dinner with them multiple times, and the two of them just have a great time.
I was going to say,
how about this?
Grandma Bowen has told us, Nana is what Rosie calls her, that she and Jackie have done some play dates, and Rosie and Marley are best friends.
Yeah, no, they have a great time together.
Look at that.
Awesome.
Well, how about that?
It's a little feel-good pop quiz story. We don't get this very often.
John called in, and we picked a number, and his name is just John here on the call screener. And look at this. The Bowen family, the John family.
I love it.
Look at you guys.
I love it. No, Jackie and Colleen, great friends. John, thank you for calling. I have a feeling some hints will be coming your way, so...
thank you. I probably knew them.
Yeah, not on the Olympic question, though.
Well,
Sorry.
Yeah, that one. Andy Sweeney, I'll try to be as unbiased as I can.
Sure.
I can't make any promises. Go ahead and lead off here with John.
All right, John, let's
1.
go. Question number 1. 2020 National League batting champion and 3-time All-Star Juan Soto has been traded by the Padres to the New York Yankees. With which Major League Baseball team did Soto make his Major League debut? Padres, Marlins, Nationals, A's.
Ooh, I'll go with total guess, but I'll go with the Padres.
I'll do the Kevin Bowen. You sure?
No.
You sure, John?
What were the other 3, Andy?
Okay, so it's not the Padres.
This team had a hell of a run this year,
They
John.
did. Marlins, Washington Nationals, Oakland A's.
Well, the A's didn't have a run.
Well, the A's ran to Vegas, right?
They ran somewhere, yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll just choose 50-50. I'll go with the Marlins.
Are you sure?
Nope. No, I'm not sure at all. I'll go with the other one.
Okay, you want to go with the Nationals on that one, John?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Nationals.
Yeah, there you go. Good job. Good
Moving
start.
on to number 2, certainly one of the more iconic Heisman Trophy finalists ever, the list in 97. Charles Woodson won the Heisman Trophy over Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf. This guy, remember the sunglasses he was rocking at the old Heisman Trophy ceremony? Who finished 4th in the 97 Heisman voting, John? Was it Randy Moss, Ricky Williams, Curtis Enos, or Tim Dwight? Forgot about Tim Dwight.
Yeah,
he had the sunglasses on. Boy, I love playing with him in some video games growing up.
I'm going to go with Randy Moss then.
All right, there we go, John. All right, question number 3. Iowa's Caitlin Clark became the first player in NCAA Division I women's basketball history to reach 3,000 points, 750 rebounds, and 750 assists for her career last night. Named the first player in men's D1 college basketball history to reach those plateaus. Was it Oscar Robertson, Lionel Simmons, Larry Bird, Or D, it's never happened in men's D1 basketball?
I'll go the Scotty way and say it's never happened.
Okay, so you're reading
This isn't John's first rodeo
You're
here.
reading
Come
the
on
test
now.
maker. I
The
appreciate
Bowens
that.
aren't hanging out with stupid individuals. John's a smart guy. All right, number 4 here, John. I'm afraid the hints probably have to go away. Which of the following Hall of Famers was not born on December 7th? Terrell Owens, Dick Butkus, Johnny Bench, or Larry Legend?
Do not know at all. I'll guess Larry Legend.
Scotty, come on now. Are we really supposed to know birthdays, Scotty? That one, now that I looked at it, that one, that kind of frustrates me.
That's a difficult one.
Yeah, what, he's got a rip-off calendar of sports birthdays that he's supposed to view every morning?
Hey, who doesn't know when Dick Butkus' birthday is?
God, yeah, of
We're
course.
doing sports radio around here.
Right. Yeah.
All right, last one, John. Let's go. 3 years ago today, this sport was announced as a new Olympic sport for the 2024 Paris Games. Is it women's softball, breaking, canoe slalom, or trampoline? And I guess breaking is break dancing, right? Yeah, break dancing. So women's softball, break dancing, canoe slalom, or trampoline? I mean, what are we doing?
God,
what are the Olympics?
It's the Olympics, not the X Games.
I'm gonna go with trampoline.
Remember when they did the ESPN Ocho?
Sure. Oh yeah.
That's what this reminds me of. That trampoline and something with a canoe should be on the Ocho.
Now,
not the damn Olympics.
Do we think NFL guys are going to do the 3-on-3, or the not the 3-on-3?
NBA guys?
The flag football, I mean, because that's in 2028, right, Scotty? In LA. So 2028, we're getting flag football. I mean, how's that going to work?
Okay, but guys like Tyreek Hill, they'll be well into their 30s, so it won't be them. It'll be like a new crop, right?
Right, but I just mean, will the NFL allow it? Will contracts allow it?
That's a great question. I mean, we do it with NBA stars go over
there.
there.
But, I mean, obviously, and it's flag. It's not tackle, but still, you're in and out of breaks. And
I'm going to say yes, if not really good college players, right? I don't know. You're asking me. I don't know. How did John do? Let's tally it up. I think he got at least 3 of them, did he not?
John, number 1, the Nationals. Number 2, Randy Dandy, Mr. Moss there. How about that? Woodson, Manning, Leaf, Moss. Pretty good quartet there. Number 3, this guy's a veteran. John wasn't messing around. He knows Scotty's tricks. Caitlin Clark, that's ever been duplicated in the men's game. Is that where the fun stops?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's which of the following Hall of Famers not born on December 7th? I believe you said, Larry Legend? No, it's Larry Bird's birthday today. Dick Butkus was your answer. He was born on December 9th, 1942.
And then breaking, not trampoline, breaking, which is the competitive form of break dancing. I mean, what in the... Dear Lord. John, if you're still on the line, Colleen Bowen, so love Jackie and John, exclamation point. Look at that. This is a nice feel-good pop quiz.
It's a feel-good moment here on this Thursday. I feel better.
Yeah, great to talk with both of you.
John, have a great one, man. Great to hear your voice. Happy holidays. Thank you for listening. Charlie Clifford, Colts and Bengals next.
Hey, it's Dan Dockage here. I have been on the Affinity
Weekday at 1 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I see the blackjack table. I see the roulette wheels. And I see Eddie Gill, the slot machine.
We love that call, don't we? We absolutely love that call here.
Now, I've lost
on
a
the
lot
wake-up
of money at the casino in the hometown of our next guest.
Oh, have you?
My bachelor party was in Cincinnati. And Charlie Clifford, who joins us now to talk Bengals, the Jack's Casino, it honestly might have stimulated a little bit of Charlie Clifford's recent economy.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, it was not the best effort.
I'm pretty sure I've lost some money in that Jack's Casino. I think that Jack's Casino has taken our show down.
Handshake
years
emoji
ago.
right here between me and Andy Sweeney. Charlie Clifford, good Thursday morning to you, my friend.
Well, I owe your next night at the casino on me, KB, for being very late here to the call. Much apologies to the show for blowing up your 9 o'clock hour, but it's great to hear your voice.
Well, I still owe you a beer from the garage probably about a year ago this time, so consider that even. Looking forward to seeing you, though, on Sunday. Looking forward to seeing, honestly, two teams, I think, in the thick of the playoff picture, and credit the Bengals for what they did on Monday Night Football. You were in Jacksonville. Your level of surprise with Jake Browning looking like Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Kevin and Andy stunned. I mean, Jake Browning, you couldn't make a nicer person. He is so laid back, California guy. You remember what he did at Washington. But for the last 4 years, I mean, it's been practice squads cut, in this never-ending merry-go-round. And this year, Cincinnati brings in Trevor Siemian with the assumption that, okay, that's going to be Joe Burrow's backup. Browning wins the job. It was very clear the first day. I remember when Burrow went down, which was day 2 of training camp with the calf issue, when we talked to Jamar Chase, okay, what happens now? And he said, we're good. Jake's got us. Jake can handle it. He probably said Jake 4 or 5 times, never mentioning Trevor Siemian's name. Granted, Siemian had only been there a short time, but that was really the first point. Okay, this guy has won some people over behind the scenes, and surely quietly throughout the summer and really in the final couple preseason games, it was clear that he was going to win the job. Now, to be thrown in with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and then in Monday night in Jacksonville, a place that hadn't hosted Monday night in 12 years, that was a pretty steep gauntlet. But that performance, I mean, what a game Zach Taylor called, having 9 different receivers involved in the first half. They really struggled on third down with Browning against Pittsburgh. That completely reversed against Jacksonville. The explosive plays came back. He took some hits. The run game for the first time in over a month showed up. And for that reason, we got some juice on the line Sunday, fellas. It's going to be a fun one.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. But poor Trevor Siemian, not only did he lose a job out to Browning, on top of it, he went to the Jets. He had to go he had to go to the Jets.
Yeah. He got grounded.
Yeah,
he got grounded.
He really
did.
He got sent to his room, purgatory, to the New York Jets. Charlie Clifford with us, WLWT NBC affiliate there in Cincinnati. Okay, so I thought this, Burrow goes down. I'm thinking, okay, they're out of the way, right? The Colts don't have to worry about the Bengals, and then what happened on Monday happened, and Browning and that offense looked so good. Is that repeatable? Are people starting to believe at least a little bit in the Bengals again without Joe Burrow?
Well, Andy, Browning spoke yesterday, and he was the first to say it's one game. It's one game. It feels great that he went out there and really met his expectation. He was the least surprised out of anyone. There wasn't an ounce of, this guy's just soaking it up because he feels like he just hit the lotto. He fully expects, with the weapons Cincinnati has, to go out and score points. Really the bigger question, if Browning is serviceable, it's the Bengals, specifically the run defense. They have been bad, really, from week 1. And, I know we're looking at Indy stats, and Zach Taylor yesterday went out of his way to compliment Shane Steichen and his ability, not only this year, but throughout his career, to be one of the more creative offensive minds, who deserved a gig. And here he is, in the Coach of the Year conversation. It's one of the best stories in the AFC. So really the repeatable part for me, unless Browning starts having turnover issues, which the Bengals haven't had all year, they're one of the top couple teams in the league in terms of turnovers, been really, really strong with the ball. I think it starts with, can the defense lock down and keep some of these ugly games close? Because you're right, it's not going to be 354 and a couple touchdowns and 86% completion percentage the rest of the way. It's just ludicrous to think that that's going to happen again for Browning. But it's going to start in the trenches this week, and against Indy, that's a frightening proposition because I know Stewart's back, and credit Chris Ballard. That defensive line, it seems like it was always pass rush. When's it going to hit? And it looks like it's hit this year from what I've read.
He's one of my favorites. He is Charlie Clifford. You've certainly heard him on these airwaves down at the NBC affiliate in Cincinnati. He joins us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Charlie, it just seems like it's been a wild season for Cincinnati. I mean, I'm sure Colts fans in their own way feel like it's been a wild season for the Colts, but Cincinnati certainly. How would you even describe just the up and down nature to this year for them?
I think it's the equivalent of when you get on a flight and before you even push back, they say, hey, this is going to be bumpy. Seatbelt sign's going to be on the whole flight. Okay.
Yeah.
No drinks.
Give me the liquor now.
Yeah. Hope you hit the restroom before you boarded because this is going to be bumpy. But you're right. Day 2 of training camp, the calf for Burrow. It was really, at the time, great news because it looked like an Achilles injury. And then he comes back in time for Cleveland week 1. They start 1-3. He cannot move out of the pocket. Burrow addresses the team in Nashville after falling to 1-3, saying, we're going to get this right. They did. Went on a 4-game run where he got his legs back. They go out to San Francisco and just throttled the Niners really from start to finish. Come back on the next week and beat Buffalo Sunday night game. Okay, now they're another hot Super Bowl pick at 5-3. Things are going great. And then a torn wrist ligament Thursday night in Baltimore, season's done. So that has been the roller coaster. Zach Taylor has been under some heat here. Let's face it, back-to-back AFC title games, a Super Bowl appearance. I mean, his approval rating was as high as it could be, and folks were frustrated. Why can't you run the football? They've struggled just as much stopping the run as they have running the ball. That changed against Jacksonville with, a play sheet that looks significantly different. Chase Brown, a rookie from Illinois, fantasy owners out there, he played 11 snaps, got 9 carries, carried the ball 60 yards. I would expect a heavy dose of Chase Brown in addition to Joe Mixon on Sunday. But yes, overall, it's been a rough year. I mean, this city expected Super Bowl. The players talked about it in July, that was this year. It was going to happen. And obviously those expectations have changed, and the hope now is to find a little momentum for this playoff push.
All right, we got about a minute left here, Charlie Clifford. I guess less than a minute. The favorite spot you miss in Indianapolis is what?
KSR, no question.
Now, KSR has moved. Did you know that? That would be Keystone Sports Review.
Yes. Come on, Kevin. I knew.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure you knew.
Lincoln Square Pancake House, of course. That was a staple for Colleen and I. But mostly just the people, man. ACU, Query, my buddy Jason Thompson, who actually was the first to call me saying, hey, you're missing your radio spot today, buddy. I'm like, oh, crap, I wrote down 10. No, but all the people, David Wood, Todd Meyer, Ross Bolin, I'm so happy that the Colts have put it together this year to this degree because the ball bounced the other way a couple straight years. So I'm glad that city's getting something to cheer about because it's a great place and I miss it.
You deserve the success, Charlie. Glad to see it down there at the NBC affiliate WLWT, Charlie Clifford. I will see you on Sunday, my friend.
Sounds good, partner. Sorry again, fellas. Peace.
All good. Charlie Clifford right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Colts and Bengals, 1 o'clock. Andy Sweeney, 5 o'clock today from Vegas.
Let's go.
I cannot wait for that one. All right, we are rounding things out here. Again, it'll be the Query and Company. And then J&B a little abbreviated today. Pacers, 5 o'clock. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
The Ride with JMV.
Kurt Signetti, the new head coach of the